5 to 6 every day, and just providing this service to this community. And so I came back home, got an idea, it's time to put action. Let's put action. I want to do the same thing to our community. I want to be the source to the community. Pediatric massage, Lomiki. And so there's a logo, nurturing is universal, new. My mission is to empower family unity to the art of massage. I'm trying to revitalize this art that our kupunas were practicing. But today we're not focusing on our kids, it's mostly on adults in the state of Hawaii. My goal is to, as I mentioned, to go out into the community, to provide workshops. And speaking of going out to the community, I'm at this present time working with Kumu Kamana to implement licensed massage therapists in a Hawaiian medium and Navahi o Kalani Oku. So there are so many benefits. There are so many benefits for our kids. Not only for our kids, but for us adults who own kids. There are so many. I can list, and there are just a few that I just printed out there. Weight gain, sleeping patterns, we'll continue on. But here I wanted to share this. Our group that went there was the second time. The first trip that this group went said 30 to 40 children hospitalized per year. When we, the second group, came in 2012, they said, here's our follow-up results by implementing massage to our kids. 4 to 5 went to the hospital. 4 to 5. Does it make a change? Definitely make a change in the community. Here, in the state of Hawaii, statistics, Department of Education, disabilities, Native Hawaiians, from the age of 6 to 21, look at this, specific learning disabilities, over 4,000. Over 4,000. I can imagine some of that number. This might be your relative, might be your relative's friend's friend. This is the state of Hawaii. And we'll continue on. And so, at this present time, I'm so excited to share, but I need to move on. And I'm just seeking for help, for financial and so forth, to create this Hawaiian pediatric clinic. That's my citations. And I just wanted to share with you that the source of living is existing. And it's called pediatric massage. And due to the time, how much minutes do I have? Okay. Due to the time, I value you guys, appreciate for your time, all that you guys have. Open your ears, open your mouth, open your eyes, open your heart. I really, really appreciate for this. Hallelujah.
For your presentation. I don't see Uncle Patrick here from the... Oh, okay. Uncle Patrick, kind of perfect. Hello, Uncle Patrick. We had a nice visit earlier with Uncle Pat at the Resource Center at Keaukaha. Good to see you again, Uncle Pat.
Hello, my Maku'u. It is again, for me, it's as a representative of the Keaukaha Community Association. It's an honor for me to be here to represent that community. Today I explained the positions of Keaukaha community. However, I did hopefully enlighten the trustees that were present that they do have a lot to make us, the beneficiaries, aware that communicating needs to happen. There are social media can be a curse if that's what it is. It can be. However, I think it's a useful tool for Native Hawaiians also to use because you can reach, and maybe somebody who's sitting home in a garage will answer you, because we do have, as people, have that type of a tendency maybe to come and say what we need to say or not at all. So I think it's important. But from, again, Keaukaha's perspective, it was, I had the opportunity to thank the trustees for, and he wasn't present, but Dr. Kamanao, I need to thank him because he stepped in and presented himself, because of the many hats that he wears. But I took it to mean from a representative of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs in truly trying to reach, find solutions in how Keaukaha we are plagued, we're no stretch immune in any other community with suicides. So yes, and I need to allow you for that, Doctor, for that, stepping up to it twice into the community to find solutions for it. So suicides does play a lot of importance. Communication, again, I need to say that to you, all of you, because tonight I had to go read the Kawai just so I know what's transpiring with the commissioners. And all of us here are beneficiaries of maybe 3 trusts, a Lei trust, or maybe all of them. However, but if you're from the Homestead, then you the trust, the legacy that left by Principal Hale, and with this trust here that's left by OHA. So we got to deal, the Department of Hawaiian Homes may need to work seriously with OHA to find ways to, so the boy out here can benefit. And that, along with our politicians, some of us don't like hear that. Some of us, we believe that if we become part of the political processing, then we have sold our souls. Well, if that's the case, then a lot of souls have been sold, but nobody listens to us. So the only way I believe that can happen is that we just got to get in that process and go get who we like and make them listen to us. So other than that, I appreciate the fact, I appreciate Trustee Lindsay allowing me to at least be part of you, and I would like to, maybe support. I was asked to support one program, and that was Maku'u no Yao. So so if you can do that, I think that's a worthy. So again, thank you, and aloha. Well, I don't know. I was asked to just elaborate. There's some new construction happening in Keaukaha. The new construction is a cafeteria for our students. Keaukaha was 8 years ago at a student body of less than 200. We've now got a student body in 2 years at 430. So that says a lot for us in Keaukaha. It means the system, the DOE system, obviously is working well, but we've been fighting with the DOE for our kitchen. We have a cafeteria being built. And the DOE's premise is that we're going to build this cafeteria because they're not going to raise the funds. We went and we solicited grassroots with OHA and got those kinds of funding through the legislation to fund this. I would get Pu'iwa, but the price was like $8.2 million. That's probably the most investment in Keaukaha. But they funded it, they're building it now. They said they're building it with all the bells and whistles, but we don't can cook in there. So we already made plans with our legislators, and all of them, not just the one in Hilo, with Representative Malama, and all of the politicians to help us be able to cook there. Because we think Keaukaha can contribute by this culturally, maybe they don't like us cook kalo, they don't like us do this, but I think once a week if you make luau leaf and something that we growing right there on the property, should be wala, whatever, and offer that to our student body. What's wrong? And invite our pupunas come inside there. So the problem that we're having now, I don't see that it's not an insurmountable problem. But I would ask the Office of Hawaiian Affairs if somehow in their deliberations or what other things bigger than us in Keaukaha, Hawaiian words, a lot of them start with K. Kahawaiola, Kalewaya, Kaka'ako. All the kind of guys that have that name seem to be having a problem. Okay? So I would just want to ask the Office of Hawaiian Affairs if they so desire and would like to help us when the time come up, not necessarily to fund. I look at it this way: if the DOE will put the bells and whistles, but no can fund, maybe you can help us put some bells and whistles, and they can fund the worker. But I look at it because they took our workers away and took them to Hilo High. I'm just asking, bring them back. Bring our workers back. That's all. So again, mahalo to Dr. Kamanao for allowing me to share. Thank you very much.
And we can help. We've got a good advocacy team on board now, so we'll be there to go however we can. Kihei Ahuna, representing the Keaukaha-Panaewa Farmers Association, and after Kihei, it will be Esther Shirley Petro for the Maku'u Farmers.
Mahalo, Trustee Lei. And mahalo to the board. Thank you very much for being here. I will aim my comments towards the trustees here, to kind of give them an idea of what our concerns are with the Keaukaha-Panaewa Association. I just want to thank you first for being there today for us, that we could, share with you guys our organization, what's going on in Keaukaha-Panaewa Farmers Association. I felt a wonderful spirit being there today, and we thought that it was going to just be like about 6 or 7 guys, but a conglomeration of about 20 plus people came and said, whoa! So it brought an attention to me, the seriousness and the attention that we need to put out to you so we can accomplish the things that we need to do in Keaukaha-Panaewa Association. So mahalo for that visit today and bringing us to this level of knowing what we need to do here. Again, I just want to introduce myself. I'm Kihei Ahuna, born and raised in Keaukaha. I'm descendant of godly parents. My parents are Eleanor and Albert Ahuna. They were both also community leaders in Keaukaha-Panaewa in the 70s. They served as presidents in the community association. And I think the Lord gave a sense of humor, putting me in this position right now to kind of share some of the things that I can with this association. I'm truly grateful for that. I shared with you earlier today all of the things that we're doing in Pana'ewa, Keaukaha-Panaewa Association, the farmers. And we truly focus all of our energies on how we can let our farmers know the association does exist. We, in attendance, we're very small, but as far as the benefits or the programs that we have available for them, there's a vision that we need to go and let them know, what's going on in our community over there, so they can see what's ahead of them or what is there for them. So one of the things, like I mentioned earlier today, we as an association, we need to, we making plans to visit them more, but as far as more of the program that will be available to them will be determined upon how much they will join in with us, because there is a lot, and I'm really grateful for the The Department of Hawaiian Homelands, as a Hawaiian growing up in Hawaiian Homelands, I need to let everybody know I'm grateful to be who I am and having a lease in Hawaiian Homelands. There is no other program that I feel in this world that a person can be blessed with. The program is not perfect, but you need to appreciate what is there for you. And also grateful for that OHA is here to integrate with the program that we have in Hawaiian homes. The Farmers Association, we have what we have, but there is more that we could use. And we've been talking about having centers for our meetings. Usually now we meet either at one of our homes or in the Pana'ewa community or down at the farmers market now for convenience purposes. So I know that we will go to the Department of Hawaiian Homelands to look into what we were talking about earlier today for a production facility for the farmers to go ahead and do their products, where we can go ahead and have a production facility where they can bring their products to be manufactured and ready for market. These are some of the things that we will need help with. A center over there also would be pretty handy. We could incorporate the whole thing with a center over there too, that allows the association board and the members where we can meet. I know earlier today my vice president, Howard mentioned about equipment, that we could use in the farm. If there's any way that OHA could integrate with the Department of Hawaiian Homelands to help us in getting equipment, to help our farmers, I truly believe that it's not a handout that will make the farmers who they are, but appreciate what they've got and make them accountable for what is given to them. And then they can go ahead and be a part of this program to make this area productive. An area in Hawaii that will be a mark to have farming programs and education in this area that we spoke about earlier today. We have an education program going on for farmers now, applying for grants. So we have to be involved in finding programs that will help out our farmers. So we're strictly focused on our farmers in Pana'ewa to give them opportunities that they can be educated, aware of, and then take an active role in it to benefit them. So any way that we can, like I'm saying here, is there any way that we can integrate OHA with our efforts over here? We truly appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I wanted to mention that, there is an effort to bring our board of trustees and our commissioners at the HHL together so that at least we can talk story and move in that direction where we can look at opportunities where we can work together to serve our people. So thank you for that. Aunty Shirley, Maku'u Farmers Association. Today we were hosted by Aunty Paula and her Luau out at Maku'u, and they gave us this wonderful lunch. I think everybody, Aunty Paula, when we were in Pau, and visiting with you folks, we all wanted to go back to the hotel to go sleep. Hallelujah. Aunty Shirley, nice to see you.
It's so nice that we talked about pediatrics. Patrick talked about our babies at Keaukaha, getting a cafeteria. And Maku'u, we believe in our babies. How am I about my grandson? Makes a lot of noise, but that's the only way he's going to learn. So he wants to talk, but he has to. I'm here tonight on behalf of our president, and the members of our Maku'u Association, to say mahalo to Chairman Shadow, Trustee Lindsay, Tama, Hale, and the Board of Trustees of OHA for all the work they did for us. This is a plaque, and it says, this award is presented to OHA, Office of Hawaiian Affairs, In appreciation of your generous contribution to the Maku'u Farmers Association in donating funds to build capacity. Mahalo. We got funds to build an office, and it's taken us over 2 years. A lot of county restrictions and regulations. It's been a challenge, but we've learned a lot. Our association is very small, but very determined to move ahead. And we have something for our community. So, I'll put this back to you.
Mahalo, Shirley. You know, I saw Ian Leroy come in earlier, and I'd like to introduce Ian. And mahalo for being here, Ian. Ian is our outgoing commissioner for East Hawaii, and Wally Ishibashi is here. He's our new commissioner for East Hawaii. So thank you, Wally, for being here. And it was really, today we spent the day. First we went out to Maku'u to visit with Aunty folks, and we came back to Hilo. We got to visit with Hale and his group at the farmers market with Bill Brown at his place. And then we went up to Keaukaha-Panaewa. But you know, it's really a time for us to come together, the AHL, our lessees, and us as OHA, and look forward to those possibilities and those opportunities whereby we can work together to better conditions for our people. Next up, Bill Brown, representing our Pana'ewa Hawaiian Homelands Community Association. Following Bill will be our Pi'i Hawaiian Homes Community Association, represented by Kalewa.
Aloha. Now come next year, I think we're going to change our bylaws and renaming our association Pana'ewa Hawaiian Homeland Community Association. Because following Uncle Pat, this list of what I wanted to talk about is gone now. So now I gotta think what to say. But with this said, I want to thank most of all for you guys visiting today to Hopkins. He made that possible, got me jumping. Thinking what I was going to say to you guys today in reference to Pana'ewa community in Hilo. With that said, I think the concern that I would have, that I wanted to share but didn't get across, was Kamole'a. That is going on right now. But the bigger picture is on Kamole'a is like a place for our children to actually do after-school homework, tutoring and whatnot. We had that at one time at the family center that you guys seen. But because the county is now in there, that our access is limited. So in essence, if we were to have a block, in fact, not have a block, that we would have to be blocked into a certain time. Get in there and get out of there. With our project Luau, we can actually store our computers and whatnot for our keikis, have tutoring for our children that is in need now because of our children. At this point, I'm glad that we have an indoor basketball that they can, indoor basketball court that they can no idle time on their hand, but it doesn't do good if you have sports, but on education. We need hand in hand with that. So that would be the concern that I would have, that I would bring up to you guys. Other than that, I mahalo for taking time to visit Pana'ewa.
Mahalo, Bill. Khalil. We will jump on to Michelle Hiraishi, Malama, Luau, and Kelsey. And they'll be followed by Mike Hodgson from the Waimea Homestead Association.
Aloha trustees, aloha everyone. Thank you so much this evening for giving us a quick opportunity to speak to you and just to update you on some of the happenings with Malama Oiwi. I wanted to take a real quick moment and point out we have a couple of our board members that joined us also this evening, way in the back. I see Kadika Level and Leona Sitomo. Thank you. And then up here I see also Louis Hale who joined us this evening. So thank you for your support. I don't know if you folks with your busy day today got an opportunity to see the Honolulu Star Advertiser front page. Front page talked about the plight of Native Hawaiians with the Native Hawaiians being at risk and that the huge health disparities that Native Hawaiians face aren't much improving. I will say that Malama Oiwi, we have been here 22 years on this island. We provide health services island-wide and we are making an impact. The problem is we have a huge uphill battle. We are constantly fighting things like McDonald's. We are constantly fighting huge battles in socioeconomic disparities, especially for Native Hawaiians. Part of our thank you this evening is last year, OHA funded a small project for us for $15,000 that allowed us to give financial assistance to folks that were needing help with health care on island as well as off island. What that was an emergency medical assistance project that allowed us to help folks with funding for medications, for co-pays, for surgeries, even for off-island travel, as I mentioned, to see specialists. We did well with that project. We met the target. We actually exceeded the target, and that's some of the information that Kelsey has passed out to you. But again, the problem is it's a huge uphill battle. And we are so very fortunate to be part of this island where we all communities come together, where we work to support each other, where we look at how we can find resources here on island. As an example, in support of Na'auao, we do plenty of work with those kids that come. We're a site for them as a placement site. We do training for them, and we really are supporting those programs too. We're very, very grateful for the support that Office of Hawaiian Affairs has given us, and of course we're always asking for more, like everyone. While we have fantastic impacts, our programs make a difference. You'll see there in some of the statistics that we gave as an example. I believe it was 74% of the clients that came through our program actually lose weight, which is a huge, huge goal that we met, and we were so lucky to be able to do that with fantastic staff. Yeah? Unfortunately, we are primarily federally funded, and during this past year we were hit with sequestration. Between that, as well as just rising administrative costs, things like health insurance that we have to provide for employees rose, things that we have to do like our annual audit, costs are rising, which meant we had to cut our budget by quite a bit and ended up having to close down 2 of our offices. On the flip side, because we have a good reputation in the community, because our programs are impactful, we were able to do a lot of networking, that we were able to get some support as far as finding housing for our offices for those 2 places we had to close down. Specifically, our Maku'u office in Na'auao, where we were renting space there, and we just couldn't meet the cost with our budget. We were renting from the Kamitaki family, and what they did was they gave us a year of free rent, which includes also electricity and utilities. So I very much mahalo them. because it allowed us to keep services going in the community where so much the services are hurting now. Additionally, in Waimea, we're in the process, which was another place we could close down offices, because as you folks know, Waimea is so expensive. We were able to network, work with some of the community folks there, and we're working with Dr. Clarence Keaukaha-Panaewa in Hawaii, where we are looking to partner with them and have a site with them where we will cover the cost of just electricity, and they will pick up all the rest of the office space and even share some of those things like reception duties, that kind of thing. So I think what it's important for trustees for you to understand is, while we hear this kind of negative reporting so often, the fact is our programs are impactful. We just have such an uphill struggle. So any funding that you can give to any community agencies, as even this article spoke to, that makes that stronger in us being healthy on this island and all our islands. So I appreciate so much the time to speak with you this evening. Please, if ever you have questions on any of our programs, please feel free to contact us, as well as folks. I remind you that we exist on all areas of this island. Please call Malama Oiwi, so that we can help you with any of the health issues that you might be facing. Mahalo.
Thank you, Michelle. Mike? All the way from Waimea, Mike Hudson, there's a number of folks you brought with you.
Mike Hudson out of Waimea Homestead Association. I have some of our board members here, Sonny Shimoka on our Homestead Association, my wife Kainoa, on our Community Development Corporation, I have Bruce Lindsay, and Uncle Tony Phillips. Waimea Homestead Association. A couple of years ago, I got involved with the finance as far as our association. Most people know that Waimea Community Association was run by Aunty for about 20 years. Yeah, so she passed on the reins to me after retiring from the police department. What a task that has been. The first year we wrote some grants for farming. I heard about the farming association. We wrote some grants, and we was able to get funding from 5 different entities. Those 5 entities, the one which was OHA. Thank you so much. And that first round is just concluded. It's going to take us a couple extra months to conclude it. We had to show our capacity, and I believe we did show our capacity. We have some of our homesteaders producing vegetables within greenhouses. We built that capacity. Secondly, I want to thank our trustees for the second and third phase of our grant in giving us funding. The largest portion of our funding came from you guys. We're working on that second and the third year, the 2-year grant. Mahalo when you do that. By the end of the 3rd year, we're going to have 45 new farmers in our homestead. We have 115 agricultural lots. Almost half not even live on our island, believe it or not, of the 115. Because some people, as you know, you guys well aware of that. Some of the leases was awarded to people not living on Maku'u, so they Honolulu or other islands. So hard to get them to farm the land if they don't live here. So out of 115, you know, with our program, we'll be able to reach 45 families of the 115. So it's almost nearly all of the homesteaders that are actually present on the island and able to farm that. So I want to really mahalo you guys for that, for working with our homesteaders. You know, one of the reasons why we did that was when I first got involved in Homestead, they pointed out in our lease that if you're not farming your land, you're going to take them away. So, the conditions of the lease. So that was one of the biggest reasons why we created that process of writing on grants to teach people how to farm. I'm not tooting my horn, but just for information, me and my wife started farming 6 years ago. And we started doing organic tomatoes on our farm. We ballooned, we used up the 5 acres, we got an extra 5 acres on RP, and we're farming up now 10 acres of tomatoes, organic tomatoes. So we're not stingy with the knowledge. We pass on the knowledge to our homesteaders. We intend to, not just tomatoes, anything they like grow for 45 families. So we're passing on that knowledge as we learn. That's basically what we've done on the homestead. That's one of the big reasons why we got it. We're building our capacity administratively. White Community Foundation funded an administrative assistant, so we finally get one paid person on staff so it can help us, because I've been overworking my wife, so now she gets some breaks. Small thing. Halal has been doing really well at our association. Halal now people put on an awesome presentation. 2 nights sold out in Waimea, about the life of our kings, Kamehameha, the life of Kamehameha, prior to Kamehameha, and through the life of Kamehameha and Waimea. So we've been doing really good things in our association. Recently created Waimea Community Development Corporation. You guys going to be seeing that name, WNCDC, in the near future, because we will be seeking you guys' assistance. In that, we have several components. Waimea Community Development Corporation. Our mentality behind our board in our Community Economic Development Corporation is that we like to be self-sufficient. We don't like to be asking for money all the time. You know, I hear every entity coming up and we trying to get money for help us. And I understand that, you know, and I've watched that. My dad, when I was young, was the president of Hawaiian Civic Club in Kualoa. And I watch every time looking for money. It's time for us Hawaiians to step up and make our own economic development so we can create our own money, so we don't need to ask for money all the time. So in Waimea Nui, we get the kani, the men, I'm not going to say kupunas because they get prime of our men who've been seasoned in life. Is that a good word? Seasoned in life. Seasoned in life. They're stepping up with their knowledge to help us develop financially so that we can be self-sufficient. So we're working on that. We don't like asking for money, we like you partner with us. How's that one? Well, that's a different way of saying it. That's what we like. We like you partner with us. As we grow, then we help everybody else. That's the plan. That's the plan. Hawaiians helping Hawaiians, right? Yeah, so in building our capacities, where we at right now, trying to build our capacity. We've gone through a planning design process, 28 different projects. We met with over the last 2 years, we met with our Homestead. We have 366 paid members of our Homestead Association. And through that, we created surveys and got ideas of what our community wants. Total of 28 different things. From heated swimming pools to bowling alleys, you know, they like everything over there, right? So hey, we never exclude anything, put everything in it. It's listed in our Waimea Community Development Corporation. The finalizing planning design, generic planning design. So we're going to be looking for help in that area. I think what I find in this process, and eventually all our homesteaders getting to this point going to go through is we wrote CIP projects with our state legislation. One through the governor with the Department of Ag, and then also with our economic development for our native health. And one thing I like to share, where I think we need help in this, is that Senator Kidani of Ways and Means, Vice Chair, on 2 separate occasions told me that they have no reason to support the Hawaiian people because OHA and Hawaiian Homes are supposed to be funding us because they've been giving $30 million a year to us. So that they're not going to support us. They're not going to fund no CIP projects. This is out of the Vice Chair of the Ways and Means of our state legislation. Now that really sucks because I swear I pay taxes when I look at my big check. You know, as paying taxes, we should have the same opportunity. The fact that we get Hawaiian Homes, the fact that we get the HHL and OHA, hey, that's extra benefit to us. That's not in spite of. You know, so it's not what's one or the other. This is extra for us because we're the native people of this land. not then. So that's the way it should be. So I think we need help educating our legislators. Once again, waiting for CIP projects, and we're not the only homestead doing that. In Boca, we've been fighting CIP projects for the last 10 years, and we're constantly getting forward. It's because of the mentality of these legislators thinking that we separate and distinct. If we were, we should stop paying taxes if that's the case. You know, I'm not encouraging you guys. We need help in that area. You know, our priorities are cemetery. One of the sad parts about us in Waimea is that right now, we got a little Hilo corner for burial, people now get cremated, and you know, that's just not right. You know, so we don't want cemetery. That's our #1 priority project in our homestead is on cemetery. So we haven't had an available cemetery in our Waimea for the past 3 years. So that's our #1 project. You know, the D80 is warming up and ready to start rocking and rolling. Yesterday we got 161 acres preliminary 65-year lease from the Department of Homeland. Thank you. So we're working with Hawaiian Homes on our Community Development Corporation and our project, and we're well on our way. One more minute. Uncle Sonny don't talk long anyway, because Uncle Pat, when you walk by, he said he's giving up for 5 minutes of the one guy that he never right up here. Uncle Sonny. So Uncle Sonny is our chair of our Native Health and our community development.
I've pastored, I'm a Kahu, and I've pastored for over 30 years, Hope Chapel in Kona, and then, thank the Lord, God lives in Waimea. Sorry. You know that. God lives in Waimea. And so, my wife and I, as we were moving, we thought like, you know, we're going to retire, you know, just phase out at New Hope in Waimea, and retire, play with Mo'opuna, maybe go raid Uncle Bob's house of fruits and stuff like that, but just retire. Mike shows up, I work with him in the police department, also the police chaplain, and he tells me that he wants me to be a farmer. And so I'm part of that 45 recipients. I'm about to harvest in about a month. I met with some chefs yesterday. So basically I'm on the same journey, but just in a different path. Because I'm finding out you don't retire until you die. You know, one of the projects in the Waimea Nui project is a Native Hawaiian Health Clinic. I'm also the president of Keaukaha-Panaewa. We work with Malama. I think our church provided a space for you guys. And so we want to collaborate because of the disparities. One of the things that, excuse me. One of the things that really bothers me is that we got the highest of all the junk in Hawaii. The highest rate of blood pressure, heart disease, including incarceration. And so one of the hopes that we see, because we have the native, it's a comprehensive Native Hawaiian clinic. We've already secured a pediatrician, a psychiatrist, and a general practitioner, all in one guy. And he's part of the Native Hawaiian Payback Scholarship Program. And Ian Chun is his name. We've also secured a semi-retired dentist that I played football with at UH. And I told him that he's going to be volunteering in our Native Hawaiian clinic and providing free dentistry to our kids. And so I'm excited about the potential with the Waimea Nui project. I want to echo what Mike said about we're not asking for money. We're asking that you guys partner with us. I told our commissioners, thank you, Kama. Wally, thank you so much. I told our commissioners that this is a project that can become a model, not only for all the other Hawaiian Homes Associations, but a model for the state, with all the different projects that we see happening, especially the cemetery and the comprehensive day of Hawaiian Health Clinic. Mahalo.
All the work that you're doing. And I'm sorry, I forgot to mention, Kamala with my aide is also on the Hawaiian Homes Commission. Vote complete. Vote. Lei Na'auao 2020. We're getting here 8 o'clock, right? So now we'll.
Mahalo. I want to thank the trustees for being here. At the outset, I want to thank the Keaukaha community for allowing Ohana to come and share what Ohana is doing with the trustees and the community. So mahalo, because we using your time, so I appreciate that opportunity. At the outset, we understand that Luau is at risk of losing its funding. We support Luau. We wish that the Board of Trustees support that program. We believe in a revival from Keiki, our native language. So it's important that we start them young and grow them into our immersion program and then beyond that. Thank you. My name is Maku'u. I serve as the Executive Director of Lei Na'auao 2020. It's a community development organization. The chairman of our board is none other than our Big Island trustee, Bob Lindsay. So he serves many hats. And then what I'd like to do is share with you now Keaukaha-Panaewa's tech center that we built. Lei Na'auao and the Kona community, Hawaiian Home community received $940,000 to build a technology center. Our community center development plan to build this facility on Hawaiian homeland was not ready. We never had the money. And so what we did was we partnered with the high school. And so we got the Native Hawaiian Education Act funding, we partnered with the high school, and today there's a 1,500 square foot facility that provides opportunities for our community. I feel like I'm kind of drunk in here. Anyway, with that said, the Keaukaha-Panaewa Multimedia Cultural Center serves both the high school students and our Native Hawaiian community and the surrounding communities. So we're reaching as many people as we can, but more specifically our Native Hawaiian community, and more importantly, those Native Hawaiians that are not on the Homestead land, that live in the surrounding area. So that's our target base. Next. We started out, we had, in our grant, we had a directive. And that directive was for us to develop curriculum for grades K to 6. Here we have designed about a dozen books for grades kindergarten and first grade. And these books are made in English and Hawaiian and have CDs that go with them both in Mele as well as pronunciation, some of the language that comes with the book itself. Next. In addition to that, we created some of these other fun books. These are books, again, for K to 3rd grade that will help them learn both languages, Hawaiian and English, in a number of different, reinforcement areas, but specifically language arts, English and Hawaiian. And we actually designed, we did the covers. We basically built this curriculum ourselves. Next. This new set of 12 fun games, math games, was our Hawaiian, just that, math games. It's fun games. With it comes a collection of tools that you can learn math concepts with that. And this particular program serves second and third graders. And it's interesting, it comes with a manual for an instructor, yeah, a kumu. And then the kumu can take that manual and share with our hamana, the fun games, both in English and Hawaiian. So we're proud. We have developed this. With it comes DVD games that come with it, so you can follow the DVD and learn this stuff too. So pretty interesting. Again, this was part of our task to build curriculum for our hamana, both in our community and outside of the community. Next. One of the things we found that was real needed was an opportunity for our children to have a camp, or a summer fun. Very little places where our Native children can go to have summer fun. Otherwise, they're stuck at home, they're trapped, they're not sure what they're going to do the next day, they're panned off to family. This gives them an opportunity. These programs that we did in the summertime give them the opportunity to do a number of activities, and we were really happy. Each year we had about anywhere from 25 to 30 children in our program, and we were really happy with that. The last workshop we had was a ki'i camp. So in that ki'i camp, it was a couple days at the tech center, and basically they made these ki'i dolls. So it was really cool. I think that kind of activity inspires our children to do more. One more time. That's one more time. Okay. One of the things that we do is we serve our kupuna, our Maku'u, our haumana, our keiki for digital literacy, basically computer training. You can come to us at any level, beginner, advanced, or intermediate, and we can provide you a series of programs for computer literacy, to include internet training. You know, a lot of our kupuna don't even know how to get on, boot up. So you gotta go, okay, start with that. Okay, this is a mouse, this is what it does. So really, fundamental training, you get over those things, before you know it, it's a new world for our kupuna. And certainly for those that haven't been ma'a to the computer. So I had to learn on my own. Had I had this long time ago, I think I'd be a lot more advanced. I'm still learning how to use the computer. Through the digital learning, we've had about 232 students that we served. 95% of them are Native Hawaiians. So we were quite impressed with that, because most of them are coming from our community. Yeah, Hawaiian Homes is right across the street. Come on, we'll get you guys on board with digital learning. So the graph pretty much shows the demographics there, and Native Hawaiians really, we were happy to learn that we made such an impact. And with this digital learning, you can go to programs like Dreamweaver, Adobe Workshop, Microsoft Word, Excel, any program that you want to learn, we can do that at any level. So we're not just saying, okay, sorry, you got to come next year to go back to basics. We're doing basics, intermediate, and advanced, all at the same time. Next. We're really fortunate. We partnered with the University of the Nations. I don't know if you read the newspaper recently, but they were involved with the coming of the ship, the missionary ship, just on Monday, I believe it was. Very inspirational. But in any event, Lei Na'auao is our instructor for this particular course, and radio host Keaukaha-Panaewa is also the instructor for our course. And in this particular Hale course, they use a different method of training. I believe it's that, I tried to make sure my notes were clear because I still don't know how to do it, but they've made a big impact. It's this synergetic immersion style where they really just sit down and get right into it. Just olelo. We're going olelo, 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 olelo. And the moment you walk in, before you even walk in, we do the proper protocols. They all come here in, they get then asked, walk in, they go into the classroom setting, and then they do the work. And we had over 30 students that passed the beginning course last year. They all came back. And we have over 50 Hamana today in this class. So we're proud, I think, to step up our attempts to revitalize the language, keep it vibrant in our community in Kona. And so we're excited about that. Next. The other thing we've done, and our impact in the school, now that the center is there, we have helped graduate 57 students in the last 2 years of our effort. The first year, we had to plan, design, construct the building. So we did it all on our own. Got the permits, did the whole thing. Then after the year, we only have 2 years of curriculum development. And all this stuff has been done in 2 years. And this particular number of helping graduate 57 students was split between the last 2 years. So we had about 25 students last year and slightly over that this year. And they needed to complete their credit hours for citizenship class. And some of them failed for different components in that class. We were able to step in, use our instructors to help our students graduate. 90% of them were Hawaiians. Big pool of our kids was stopped. So we're glad again to help our KP, our students, our Native Hawaiian children to at least get their diploma. And with that, they can move on. The other thing we've done is we've held financial wellness seminars in our tech center. That includes, financial strategies, college planning, Social Security, Medicare, estate planning. So we've done those things in our community, partnering with other people and other agencies. So we're happy about doing that. We've served on the campus over 640 students in any different level in our community. So we think that's a big impact. Next. We're going to just wrap this up. I've got 2 more things to say. The Alpaca Dryland Forest Preserve project is a 26-acre alpaca preserve, and we integrated that plan. We provided from our grant fund $20,000 to a partner with the forest industry, and we created a curriculum for traditional and modern land management techniques on the land. So I think that kind of partnership helps. Even though we gave our dollars away, we were able to serve over 50 students to at least understand what the alpaca preserve was about and what is it about our land management for the future of our area. Next. One more. Okay, so we're happy. We served over 2,000 people since we started our curriculum 2 years ago. And over that, we estimated it was over 50% were Native Hawaiian. I'd like to comment on 2 more areas, and that is we seek to partner with OHA to help us support that. We did not receive our funding from ANA. We did not receive our financial literacy funding from OHA. We got denied our grant from you, but we're hoping that looking at this slide and knowing the impact we've made, maybe the next time around, we might get some consideration for opportunities to help our community move ahead with some of these programs. Lastly, we need to partner with Lei Na'auao 2020, our community economic project. It's at a standstill. Our commercial center that we're developing, 26 acres in Kona, adjacent to our community center development, has stalled. So we need to see and maybe work together to see how we can, I guess, move that project along for us. Otherwise, our community center development plan is moving forward. We're about several weeks away from receiving our new market tax credits in the amount of $4.5 million to build our medical clinic. If we get that, Malama, our partner, we hope that they'll move in at some point. We also believe that if we get that, it'll also trigger all the other projects to come online. We have invested somewhere about $22 million in capital and equity. With that said, the new market tax credit will help to trigger our project. Thank you. I hope to again address the board tomorrow. Mahalo, Hilo, thank you for your time.
I'm going to bring up now, it's 8 o'clock break. You want to make sure you have your 3 minutes to speak to your concern for geothermal, so that you can get your information. And the break will be followed by Kakulani Hilo, Lei Na'auao, our current school alliance.
Good evening and aloha kako. May I comment please on the geothermal issue? I've been a resident of Hawaii since 1945. May I say a few words about my background in hopes of establishing some credibility? My teacher at St. Louis High School was Kumu John Keola Lake. My classmate was George Hale. God bless these two great gentlemen. In the past, I have worked for the National Park Service at Kilauea, and in the past also have worked under contract for Alulike, Kola Boys and Girls Home, the State Judiciary Kamehameha Schools, and QLT, taking disadvantaged youth in the Hawaiian wilderness for 24 days for the purpose of inspiration, education, and counseling. I've lived on Maku'u since 1971. 41 years I've called Puna my home. I love and appreciate living in Moku Puna, and certainly do not want it to become industrialized. Puna is one of the last country places in all of Hawaii. Please reconsider the OHA vote to industrialize our area. And industrialization for what? So that, among others, Chinese millionaires and billionaires can leave on the air conditioning in their luxury condos rising in Kaka'ako. The majority of people on Hawaii Island, to my knowledge, do not want to be an energy colony to the power on the island of Oahu. Mahalo, Chair Machado, for your wise vote regarding geothermal. And thank you all so much for listening to me. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Greg. Are you on?
Aloha mai kako. Mahalo again for Hilo for hosting the meeting, and thank you for having us. I came all the way over from the Hamakua side, and it's beautiful again here. But thank you again for making the time to be with the community. I do have someone that I want to speak first regarding one of the charter schools that is in our alliance. So I just wanted to give her the opportunity to be able to share first. If you do have questions, please let me know. Aloha again.
Aloha, aloha, aloha.
Aloha mai kako, aloha to our OHA trustees. Many, many years ago, I had a chance to address the board, I think it was in the early 2000s, regarding, and it's been a humbling journey since, regarding being told from somebody on the OHA staff that because we didn't receive monies, we didn't take monies from OHA that was doing a match with Kamehameha schools at that time, that we were the problem school. And it hurt. It hit a chord with me. So I'm going to leave this with you, and this is what a problem school can do when we get monies for our students. Since then, we have partnered or collaborated with the Queen of the Okalani Children's Center, the Department of Hawaiian Homelands, the Keaukaha Community Association, Kamehameha Schools, OHA, the County of Hawaii, and of course the Department of Education in providing the kind of education we believe is necessary for our children that come from the place that I come from, which happens to be Keaukaha. And it really bothered me the other week to go to another halabai and be told that our kids are taught. That struck another chord. And so mahalo for your kokua in helping our students get to the places that we need to get and providing the kind of education that we do as Hawaiian-focused charter schools and also community-based education. I don't believe that. And the only thing I know how to do is grow smart. Despite all of that kind of negativity that we're faced with. 91% of our children are of Native Hawaiian ancestry, Keaukaha-Panaewa. 82%, and it's telling of the times, are on free and reduced lunch. 78% of our students come right out of Keaukaha, the community that we serve. So those are good things. We continue to have kumus that are very dedicated, and I have learned in the years of working, well, my children were in immersion, or when one of my daughters was in immersion, the kind of fight that we have to do as Hawaiians to educate our children in the way that we believe that is best. And so I find the struggling again as charter schools to again come forward and ask for your kokua in continuing that kind of fight to educate our children. But mahalo nui, and that's just a snapshot of what we do. It is a student-driven project. These are programs that your monies help to support in our school, and I continue to ask that you support us. I know last year I came and we had to take a look because facilities is a really hard thing for us in Keaukaha, but at least for Keaukaha-Panaewa. And I hope to come forward again and work with you when we need the help and looking at Hono Nui and a portion with Kamehameha schools that they may be able to partner or collaborate with us in building a school that is needed for our students. Mahalo.
Mahalo again for Po Maku'u from Keaukaha-Panaewa that is located right here in the Keaukaha community. My name is Ka'iulani, and I am actually the Lei Na'auao Native Hawaiian Charter School Alliance Coordinator. And in 2000, when the charter school movement was fresh on its way, after the charter school law was passed in the state of Hawaii in 1999, 12 Hawaiian-focused charter schools came together to form an informal alliance because they realized that we gotta do this together. We cannot do it by ourselves. And at that particular time, there was 24 charter schools in the state of Hawaii. So 12 of them was Hawaiian-focused. And so those Hawaiian-focused charter schools were located on Kauai Island, Oahu Island, and Hawaii Island. In 2009, fortunately through OHA's contributions and support, we have been able to Lei Na'auao support 17 Hawaiian-focused charter schools in the state of Hawaii to also include the island of Molokai as well. So we grew from 2,000, from a little over 1,000 students to now serving about 4,500 students at the 17 Hawaiian focused charter schools. And again, like Maku'u said, over 91% of them are Native Hawaiian students. Charter schools are a public school institution, but we receive almost less than half of what our regular public school students receive through the state student per pupil allocation. So we are really struggling, and our Hawaiian communities where these schools are located are struggling. And I know we all are, but at the same time, we are actually progressing and making wonderful progress. And small schools like that in Keaukaha, we have two. We have Kaumikikayo and we have Keanalahana, and it's like my colleague, because that community is small, and yet we have two Hawaiian focused charter schools there, and that is like awesome. That's the community taking back control of what education looks like for us as Hawaiian people. But we don't close the doors to everybody who wants to come. We still accept everyone also that is non-Hawaiian into our school, because if they want to learn about their host culture and where they come from, then my colleague, we want to teach them as well, because the more informed and educated they are about us as a people, as Hawaiian, as natives, then the more people we have going out to share about us and empowering us as a people as well. So now we have 33 charter schools in the state of Hawaii, and out of the 33 charter schools, 17 of them are Hawaiian focused. We have, like I said, 4,500 students in that population, and most of the schools range from pre-kindergarten to 12th grade. Some of them are just elementary, and some of them are just high school. A few of them are also immersion, and we have several of the immersion schools located on each of the islands that we service. We were fortunate enough that we did go to Kamehameha schools, even though we expect the state to fulfill their kuleana, to give equal opportunity to all public school students, because just because my child goes to the Hawaiian focused public school doesn't mean they should get less funding. They should be entitled to quality education wherever they go in the public school system. Well, since we received only half of the funding, we went to Kamehameha schools and asked them for help. And Kamehameha schools have been funding us for about the past 10 years. But again, they can only give us so much. And at the same time, like many of you here have gone to the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. They were awesome. They said we would help, we would assist you, just like Kamehameha schools is helping, because that is our kuleana too, and you are our community. And they funded us for a while, and the funding ran out, and they weren't able to fund us anymore. And by the end of the year, they basically told us, no more money, sorry, but maybe we can help you other ways. Even though they couldn't fund us, the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, with financial aid at that particular time, in the middle 2000s, they still supported us. I really want to follow you and your staff, because I call them all the time, and we, because we cannot get you guys, don't worry, I get you guys staff, and I keep on needing them. They have been helping us with legal advice, they help us with professional development, they help us with data collection, whatever we needed. And we continued to work together even though we didn't get any funding from the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. The year before, Clyde left, he was able to actually find funding for us. So we've been able to get $1.5 million from the Office of Hawaiian Affairs for the past 3 years, and this year will be the 4th year. So we really mahalo yung Kamehameha. It's very different than what we've had before, but we just appreciate every little bit that we can get, because that 1.5 gets spread among 17 Hawaiian communities throughout 4 major islands, and it makes a big difference. And it is because of your concern and your care and all that you want to fulfill as the trustees. I know that you are going to do the right thing, not just for the Hawaiian focused charter schools, but for the Hawaiian communities themselves. So I know we can't do it alone. I really like what Mike was mentioning also. After a while, you get tired going and asking people for money all the time, because we want to be self-sufficient. And as Native Hawaiians, I know my ancestors, the survivors that came here on the canoe, expected to be self-sufficient when they came here. So we want to be self-sufficient, and we don't want to have to keep going to the state and asking them for funding. We just want equal, we just want equity in funding. We're not asking for more, we're asking just for have equity in funding. So if the state receives $12,000 for their students that go to the public schools, and the charter schools receive less than $6,000, can you imagine what we would be able to do at our schools? It would be phenomenal. But right now, with $6,000 per student, our schools are thriving. They may not be hitting the performance measures that Strive High put out for there, but at the same time, they are successful. And you know that they're successful because the students are cared for, they're taken care of, they are shown aloha, they're part of a bigger ohana, and they must be making a successful impact on the child and their family, because the following year the child comes back again. Wouldn't they leave and go back to a private school or public school? Not that that's a bad thing. At the same time, they stay. So we have a commitment to those families that come to our schools. Our student population from the smallest school is 30 enrollment, and then the largest school that we have, which is Keaukaha-Panaewa, which is on the Waihe'e coast, located at the old Nana school, is almost up to 900 the population. They need our help. And I really mahalo you at this time for always thinking and taking care of us. And even when you never have money, you still helped us. So I'm just here tonight to just mahalo you again from all of the 17 communities that you continuously support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Aunty. Our last community presentation, Ohana Ho'opakele, Uncle Sam, Kaleleki. And I think Kaku Fushi is part of Uncle Sam's contingent. And Trustee Dante Carpenter.
Hello, Kaku. Mahalo plenty for having us this evening. Mahalo plenty for the patience everyone in this audience has showed. We might take a few more minutes and hopefully we'll be able to discuss reasonably intelligently with you some real concerns that certainly echo throughout the Hawaiian community, throughout the state of Hawaii. My name is Dante Carpenter. I'm a member of the Ohana Ho'opakele as an advisor, and it's my distinct privilege to speak in support of the objectives advocated for over a dozen years for this organization, Ohana Ho'opakele, has proposed to work with the Department of Public Safety and other restorative justice groups to utilize the former Kulani prison or Kulani Correctional Facility as a pu'uhonua, or wellness center for substance abuse treatment and intervention programs that take a holistic approach and cultural approach to help redirect the lives of those affected among other programs and activities. At this time, I would like to introduce my cohorts. We, quite some years ago, had some inspiration from a number of real matriarchs, principally what I call the tough tiras of Keaukaha. Ladies like Aunty Abby Napiahe, who I know many people know, Aunty Eleanor Ahuna, and several other inspirational ladies. Tonight we have here some of the cadre of individuals who have been really working diligently on this particular program. And Reverend Ron Fujioshi is one I'd like Reverend Ron to stand and be recognized. He's been really an inspirational guide and mentor to the concept of pu'uhonua. Uncle Sam, Brother Kalebo Iki, Top Sergeant, Marine, retired. Don't take no crap from nobody because that's what Marines don't do, right? Anyway, he is the outgoing president of Ohana Ho'opakele, and the incoming president is Kau boy, Palikapu Dedman. I'll try to synopsize as best I can. I gave a handout to members of the board and thank you very much, by the way. I want to take a moment to extend a sincere mahalo to Administrator Kawanau Crab and the OHA board for producing the study in 2010, which was entitled The Disparate Treatment of Native Hawaiians in the Criminal Justice System. And that publicizes the injustice of Native Hawaiians disproportionately represented when compared to all other incarcerated ethnic groups in Hawaii. So thank you again for your continuous involvement as part of the Native Hawaiian Justice Task Force. And finally, thank you for your patience and accommodation of this presentation for tonight's agenda. The Ohana Ho'opakele, amongst a number of things over the last dozen years, testified about 3 years ago in 2010 in very strong support of House Bill 415, which would relate to public safety, which sought a management and financial audit of the Department of Public Safety's contracts with a company called Correctional Corporation of America, the Federal Detention Center in Honolulu, and other agencies performing services for the Department of Safety and utilizing the Department of Public Safety facilities to be performed by the state auditor. That was supposed to be in conjunction with the ever-increasing rate of incarceration of pa'ahau in Hawaii. Ho'opakele has strongly advocated the Kulani Correctional Facility in the past and should continue in the future to serve a critical need for reintegrating pa'ahau back into the communities in Hawaii. This is in conjunction with the Community Safety Act of 2007, which requires the Department of Public Safety to develop a comprehensive and effective offender re-entry system plan for adult offenders exiting the prison system. Since 2007, I haven't seen the offender re-entry system plan developed yet. That's 6 years. Then President, at that time, President Sam Kaleikini, or Kaleleiki, otherwise known as Kupuna Sam, and members continue an unwavering commitment to the mission and purpose of Ohana Ho'opakele, and that is to advocate for alternatives to prisons in the form of pu'uhonua for pa'ahau. Literally, pu'uhonua is defined in Pukuya Albert's Hawaiian Dictionary as a sanctuary, refuge, asylum, or place of peace and safety for pa'ahau, otherwise known as prisoners, convicts, and or inmates. In the modern vernacular, it can best be defined or classified as a cultural wellness center with all that title entails. Obviously, any correctional center or pu'uhonua should pose no threat to the community, and therefore security classification of pa'ahau should be minimal, at best, as has been the practice all these other years. Among other goals, the facility should incorporate in its design and operations a fitting workplace atmosphere with the establishment of programs incorporating the best agricultural model available, coupled with established Hawaiian cultural teachings in order to approach self-sufficiency in production of necessary foodstuffs and as well as in respect of humanity. The programs would minimize cost to the taxpayer, provide opportunities to earn good time, and participate in vocation ed training, as well as prison industries that support the facility's manpower needs as well. You know, that illustrates the very purpose of the Community Safety Act of 2007, which further requires the Department of Safety to develop a comprehensive re-entry plans and curricula for individuals exiting correctional facilities, and that is for the purpose of reducing recidivism, that is going back to prison again, and increasing the successful re-entry of the pa'ahau back into their respective communities. You may have seen something that happened just yesterday, last evening's newspaper. Over, I think, some 18 individuals who were in a gang called Usas, that while they were in the mainland institution, were caught up in their own little conspiracy circle, and the federal government had intervened and arrested some 18 individuals, one of whom was a pa'ahau as well as an individual law enforcement officer. So it happens, and it happens while our critters are over there. One of the Office of Ho'opakele's goals would be to incorporate the return of deserving pa'ao from the mainland incarceration facilities, which absolutely provide no opportunities to reduce recidivism, but rather encourage hardening and contributing to family disorientation, disintegration, and ultimate dissolution. And that adds to the total compendium of problems that the Hawaiians inherit, unfortunately. I can speak with some experience as a former administrator with the Ohana trustee, also as chair of the Democratic Party and past chair of the then Senate Judiciary Committee that wrestled with virtually the same prison sentencing population problems in the early 80s. And as I thought about it, I said, my God, that was over 30 years ago. Things haven't changed over these past decades. The judicial aspect of sentencing for certain lesser menial crimes has become so onerous as to be bordering on the ridiculous. Increasing incarceration for longer sentences has become the order of the day, equating to the lock 'em up and throw the key away mentality. And further, the time served for many has exceeded well beyond the sentence, and thereby resulting in virtually indefensible lawsuits against the state with little accountability and additional high costs payable by the taxpayers of Hawaii. So what's wrong with that picture? Well, may I suggest everything? The cost of incarceration per inmate runs in the order of magnitude of $50,000 a year. That becomes $1 million over 20 years. What's the average sentence? Anybody's guess, but more important than the length is whether the sentences are fair and just. Now take 6,000 inmates, that's what we have in our system, multiplied by $50,000 a year, and you end up with $300 million per year merely to clothe, house, and feed these guys. And that's the cost of the system of 1 year only. So is there any question why this has become a major commercial activity across the United States, which incarcerates more people than any other country in the entire world? Every state in the United States is impacted similarly, and unfortunately for us, timely recognized Mr. Eric Holder, the United States Attorney General, under President Barack Obama's administration, has recently acknowledged that this issue of excessive incarceration has risen to a national scale and is in dire need of correction. The unfairness of over-incarceration without any regard to rehabilitation or rehumanizing training or substantial programs to get those individuals started back on the right track for reintegration in order to become respected, useful, and productive citizens once again made for me a very difficult decision way back then as the chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee. And I decided that I was damned if I was going to be building more prisons just to score more human beings, like chattel in ancient times or cattle in present-day terms, with little or no chance of restoring human dignity in their present settings. And that's where we are right now, is trying to restore some dignity, or at least give back the dignity to these young men and women who may have gone astray, and that we'd like to help set a course. So I'm encouraged that most recently to have had an opportunity to speak personally but separately with Ted Sakai, Director of the Department of Public Safety, and Bruce Copa, who is the Chief of Staff to Governor Neil Abercrombie. And we're scheduled to meet again on October the 2nd, it's next week, for the purpose of discussing, among other matters, Act 117 of 2012, which strongly is supported by the governor, which sets the tone for the use of the concept of pu'uhonua, or wellness center, into the programs to be incorporated and integrated at the facility or facilities so designated. And it's our hope to begin the process of utilizing Kulani as the first site of pu'uhonua, or wellness center, for the rehabilitation and reintegration of pa'ao to successfully transition back to their respective communities and to their ohana. And finally, I hope with this introduction of the activities of the Ohana Ho'opakele, the term restorative justice doesn't become just a nice sounding phrase with no continuing community support going forward. Instead, indeed, we ask OHA's continued support of the advocacy of Ohana Ho'opakele. Look forward to partnering with you for the good of Hawaii and its future. Let's all work together. Mahalo, Hilo. Thank you for your patience, folks. A couple more, and we can go.
I gotta deliver why Hawaiians always are looking at. The statistics we showed you was done by the federal study, Civil Rights Commission. And then OHA also did a study through the summit on the situation of Native Hawaiians. Maybe the judge would also know that more Hawaiians are being sent to prison longer felony sentences than any other race. More Hawaiians are returning back to prison when they get out than any other race. The women with husbands in prison are like 40%. So you're looking at the children, or are we breeding more children that become prisoners? I look and when I listen to the homesteaders talk about the homestead, well, there's the other 49% that gotta go work and get their aina. They're not homesteader Hawaiians, so they got their concerns too. And folks spend time a lot with the homesteaders and maybe looking into situations of other Hawaiians and maybe a visit at the correctional facilities and reinforce some of the Hawaiians that somebody is thinking of them. And think about the children when we say about the needs for children. Well, if you ask how many prisoners went to Kamehameha school, you probably find none. So I think our Hawaiian children would all get a start to go to Kamehameha schools, every Hawaiian child, so they can start out equally like everybody else, like the past testaments. You're looking at remedying the problem and not compounding the problem. So I'm trying to say that I think every Hawaiian child should have a shot at life equally, and not be left out on the side of the road or didn't pass the test or no room. When there's enough trust and enough money to take care of everything, you know that. So it's sad that all Hawaiians' misery becomes a commodity. And the system is now using numbers and not looking at race. When race is obviously, you can see that the census, we equal to Filipinos, number 4 as a race in this state. But yet we number 1 in prison. So who's been neglectful in looking out for Hawaiians? How long has OHA been in existence? How long has all the trusts been in existence? And how many of them pay attention to stats when today's one finger touch, it tells you the situation of Hawaiians. But how many people want to touch? Because if statistics is showing us escalating in this area, then what has failed? Has programs failed? Or is there enough programs on that side? I mean, what is the benefit so far of what's been going on can prove that it works? So what are we just fulfilling a short-term elected position and nobody wants to make the commitment about life commitment? How does that feel about, to me, knowing that I get attention on this time around and not attention on next time around? I think OHA I'm not here to ask money for the situation. It's a commitment by OHA to continue looking into this or support this idea of a puhonua, of we Hawaiians want to take care of ourselves. We've gave everybody else an opportunity for over 100 years. And if we're this way in this situation, then who failed? Did the Hawaiian fail by not making noise? Did Hawaiian organizations fail by not participating? Somebody failed along the way, and it's not the poor person, or it's not the prisoner. It's the system. And we got to do more than just visit and buy tractors and try to help farmers, but try to help the Hawaiians that fall through the cracks. I mean, who's looking out for them? And what organization takes care of that? You know, you got a lot of them are vets. They made a commitment of their life for their country. And they're in there doing time because they cannot deal with the situation. But we don't have any avenues for that. We don't have no avenues. So what is it? Is it easier just to go to jail so I can deal with my responsibility? Is it easier when I come out of jail and prison that my responsibilities became more heavy, that it's easier to cop out and go back in so I don't have to deal with them? I mean, yeah, we can all sit here and make some faces, but I'm going to ask for how. I'm talking from experience. I'm not reading one book or listening to a story from somebody. I'm just saying that when I came out of prison and got involved in Hawaiian issues and Hawaiian affairs, I found myself. I never went back to that place. But I became who I am all these years because of finding an avenue in my Hawaiian. Not in my Hale and my Western. I'm not here to stop people from being Howlers or Westerners. It's a problem just being one Hawaiian. That's how I have. It's really the hardest thing to do is be one Hawaiian. Especially when you don't get no kukua from each other. There's no solidarity. You rip off a $5,000 car, you go to prison for 5 years, that's $250,000 for a $5,000 car. So you know it's not justifiable. It's using me, the Hawaiian, as a number count to make $40,000 per head. It's using me, the one that's staying in there the longest. Do your homework. Look at stats. I'm not coming up here making up noise and making up stuff. I didn't learn this in school. I went on a computer like everybody did and found all these stats. Then funny, look at today's newspaper advertising. What are we? The first to die. What? We got no habitat, we're not a species or that's endangered? You know how fast they make laws and give them place when it's an animal or bird? But for me, nothing. You don't get those kind of treatment. You know, I've been in front of OHA for years, from Kahulawe days, talking to the same people or the same organization. Then you think about, I've been in OHA for 2000. Get any results? Do I look at any stats that say, during my time I did this, we did that? Stats went down? I don't see none of that. I only have an opportunity to speak once in a while. How frustrating is it not to speak the rest of the years staying at home? Or frustrated about who you talk to, about the truth, about making things right. No more. And then when we do come, it's not about cultural concerns. It's about how Howler we can be, how westernized we should be. Not about being Hawaiians anymore. We got extra place, we got Hawaii and Hawaiian people. No more extras. We are what we are. And if we're not important to each other, then we're in trouble. And if we're not paying attention to those who fall through the cracks, we're in bigger trouble. Because nobody else will do that. Nobody else cares. So it's up to us. And it's up to you. And it's up to all the trusts. Dollar up and take care of the Hawaiians that fall through the crack. The mission statement doesn't say they don't do that kind of stuff. They can all do it. There's no language saying you cannot participate with the Hawaiians that are falling through the cracks. That's your plea to push the rest of the trust. We keep blaming state, county. What the Hawaiian Trust doing? Multi-million-dollars. We don't get our own prison. We want our own Hawaiian prison. We want to take care of ourselves. Ohana Ho'opakele has been trying to do this for a long time. We feel we can do it our own way. And with our Hawaiians looking out for each other, it would be successful. And not the programs after you get out. Dama does it. Never fix nothing. We're still going back in. And with thousands, you can say one is a good number of saving. We lose with the odds. You gotta make a commitment to take care of Hawaiians falling through the crack. You gotta make a commitment to talk to the rest of the trusts. To all dollar up. We can give the military all kind of land. But we don't can take care of our own and our own land. Homestead is crying for a cemetery. Want to take the homestead to the end. Let them live and bury in their own place. And how many homestead kids are in prison? And how many youth live in the homesteads? No of the kids were in prison. And what you got for them coming out? What? One canoe? Go paddle canoe, go play volleyball. Where are Hawaiians live, man? How many of them care for the environment they live in? We get Hawaiian environmental organizations, the Love Aina. We get Planet Howley kind. Save the reef, save the surf, save the bird. But Hawaii gets saved nothing. Is it initiation by you folks? Is it initiation by us? Who sits on what level to initiate common sense and urgency and not be comfortable? Ohana Ho'opakele is trying to say, hey, we need your support to start taking care of Hawaiian people. If I'm repeating it, that's where it's at. And when we seek forward to go and look at legislature and to make changes and make rules, we need your support and your commitment. It's not one program, it's a life thing. We'll always be sending out Hawaiians to jail. It's not about us, that's why. We don't call the shots, we don't destine our future. But if you want to act Western, hey, that's okay. But if you want to act Hawaiian, you got a tough time. And you all know that. You're supposed to have cultural expertise on your staff. You get cultural people that are specialists. Where's the about how important traditional belief is, when no more other place get. And you who left the traditions, not my fault, but you shouldn't ridicule the ones that do hang on to traditions. You should support them. The Hawaiian who never let go. It's the easiest thing to do is be a Westerner. You know that. The hardest is to be who we are. But there's no emphasis on that. Charter school. Charter school is recruiting school for Hawaiian studies program. Charter school is. I never see one charter school student stand in front of this microphone and come defend the Aina, defend traditions. How many went to class already and graduated? We old uncles still gotta come back and talk like this. I sure hope we make some kind of difference tonight. Been doing this a long time. A lot of you people know. And a lot of you people don't care. But I care. Because I care till I'm mocking. That's all you gotta do. You got no place to go. You know, sometimes you wake up every morning, look in the mirror, just close your eye and talk and see how you sound like. Say, come out Hawaiian, or does it come out the same as the other 300 million Americans in America? They're going to be fine. They're going to get babies. Go get 600 million. We Hawaiians, man. Number 4 in the census. Man, we're going to lose our vote. We don't have enough voice anymore for population. If we don't start taking care of ourselves, we're going to go quicker. So I just appreciate the opportunity and really would like a little bit more kukua from the trustees on the situation we're talking about. and pay attention to the Hawaiians and fall through the cracks. I know we love our programs and elevate all kinds of stuff and hear everybody, but you know, 4,000 Hawaiians they lock up. And that 4,000 Hawaiians get kids. We better pay attention. Because going to be their kids going in next and wonder how they went in. So maybe should be a push on Kamehameha schools and all the trust to cover the expense and take all the keikis in and give everybody the full opportunity. Mahalo.
We are going into the individual, on the set.
Anybody seen the advertiser? Front page. Native Hawaiians at risk. How ironic we have this meeting tonight. How many of you see the sign? I don't care. You see on top of the car, the windows. I don't care. Right here. I don't care. I don't know how long we've been asking. How much do we spend for our kaka bill? Why are we furnishing one office in Washington, D.C.? No more Hawaiians up there. The Hawaiians from here. The battle is here. Here. Yeah? So you know, my Na'auao is turn. When I retired after 30 years in the Marines in '82, I came back here. Right here in Hilo. 7 of our kids, I say anywhere from 7 years old to about 9. Hey, come in this school. Hey, Uncle. John, that teacher, talk about Missouri, talk about North Dakota. How can you bring somebody from the north over here to teach Hawaii? Till this day, we never get one true count of how much money they will spend in Washington, D.C. When you go to Brazil, no more Hawaiians in Brazil. This boy went to Brazil for what? I got no interest in Brazil. I got a lot of interest in Keaukaha. But if Pana'ewa come to here, but a fact says increase 400 students. How many of these students? The mother and father in prison. This is why I got involved, my brothers and sisters. Because those boys say, they kick your foot into it, my son. Where you from? Oh, jail. How about your mother? She's in jail too. Who take care of you, Grandma? Where's Grandma? Working. So you see how the West has designed this off balance. We're off balance. This statistics is awesome. This tells the truth. We better wake up. No, Papa, I charge you. I look to you as our island rep to Kokoa, Ohana Ho'opakele. Ohana Ho'opakele, we take the last year and rehabilitate. However, 10 years, 20 years, 5 years, the last year, we bring them home and we schoolhouse. And he go out of prison, money in his pocket. That's a fool for you. But today, they come out of prison. He had the secrets, he was in prison, come home in his prison clothes. I seen him with my own eyes. Get off the airplane, just turn loose. There's no future. Ohana Ho'opakele has a charisma and a fortitude to put these battles back. They can build a solar power. Build a solar power panels, install them, when they get out, they can Ronald Copper. Money in his pocket. By the time he come out of that gig, it's nearly $20,000. You pay him for building that. You pay him for building that solar power. 14 cents today now, an hour or something like that, they get 14 cents. And then, they pull some of that money back. So, you know, this is what we're asking for support. Or, when Clyde Namo, when Statis, he came out with the statistics that we Hawaiians are at risk. We get the highest percentage. You gotta get concerned because this is all our ohana. Everyone inside here, get somebody. Wow. Why I know of this? I went in the prison myself, firsthand. Myself and the next speaker. We learned and the brothers over there, wow. You know, you like to see Hawaiians? Wall to wall? Wall to wall Hawaiians. Choke Hawaiians. He's not supposed to be. Not supposed to be. So, or I ask your support, which, however, Opaka, you know, your trustee up this side here, come visit us once in a while. Come talk story. So, with that, oh yes, if you're ready to be Hawaiian, Friday, come court. Come to the court Friday. You will learn how to be a Hawaiian. And nobody tell you how to do this, how to do that. You call it yourself. So, with that, I'd like to introduce our treasurer, Ron Fujiyoshi. Mahalo. Thank you very much.
I wasn't sure if you can let me speak, so I wrote my talk on one page. Okay. Good evening, Office of Hawaiian Affairs trustees and community members. I'm glad to see so many. My name is Ronald Fujiyoshi, and I have served as treasurer of Ohana Ho'opakele since May 2000. We have prepared a small packet of material for you. I'm sorry about that for the trustees and coming out, but it includes one, the kahea, and I hope you sign it because we gave you a list of all the notables who signed it, but it doesn't include any of you yet, so please, we kept the front page only with clips, so sign it and return it to us. Secondly, we have a list of the notables among the 1,725 kahea signers. And you can see they're overwhelmingly cultural practitioners, Hawaiians, and of them are 90 from Pa'a from Saguaro who have risked themselves and signed it themselves. Act 117 that the governor signed is in your packet, which calls for Department of Public Safety in cooperation with Ohana Ho'opakele and other restorative justice groups to plan for pu'onua, preferably at Kulani, unless a better place is found, and no better place has been offered up until now. This is law. This is not speculation. I also presented a summary of our PowerPoint to show that we can do the pu'onua, and it includes stats that came out of your study and also out of the U.S. Civil Rights Commission study in 2011. And it also quotes from Radine Karasuda's PhD thesis, where she says, you cannot trust the Department of Public Safety figures that the statistics are more than 60% Hawaiians in prison. So I think we have to take it seriously. It's a PhD thesis. I wanted to, we end with David Winnett, who himself ran a 6,000-bed prison in California, arguing for trying at Kulani, a Hawaiians-only pu'onua, 200 bed with 1 year left on the prison sentence, with family in this community. There's a perfect place and you can check whether it works or not. Only 200 out of the 6,000 in prison right now. I will pass out my paper, but OHA has been participating along this line for many years, and you know that. But I just want to refresh your memory. Beginning in 2000, in January 2004, when Dante Carpenter was one of the trustees, he began from, I think all of you, I don't know if you still have it, but have a special fund that you can donate out of it. And so he donated towards the Pahao, doing the makahiki up at Diamondback in Watonga. And so the total that he donated during the years was $2,584. Then Linda De La Cruz gave a grant from her fund of $2,500 in February 2004. And then OHA gave us, Ohana Ho'opakele, a grant of $24,999, so it wasn't $25,000, to do a complete needs assessment on the pu'uhonua, which we did. So that, plus you remember in on June the 3rd, 2008, when Steve Morse was still on the staff, you sponsored and we held a aha at Pagoda Hotel. And there were about 60 restorative justice advocates who attended that meeting that OHA sponsored. Then you put a lot of time, effort, and money into your study that is called The Disparate Treatment of Native Hawaiians in the Criminal Justice System, which was published in 2010, right? Ohana Ho'opakele, with assistance of Hano here, drafted a bill going for a model pu'uhonua here in East Hawaii. And first, we did it in 2010. Uncle Joe Tassel resurrected that bill, rewrote it, and shepherded it through the legislature last year, which is Act 117. You know? So it's law now. So OHA then finally, Ted Sakai approached Kamanau and held a pu'uhonua summit in November 2nd and 3rd of last year, in which I think there were more than 90 people there. And one of the recommendations that came out of that summit was that we recommend OHA to call a meeting of all Native Hawaiian organizations and trusts so that they can decide how they are going to support the pu'uhonua initiative. So esteemed trustees of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, what I feel of all of your involvement with the Pahao over the years, the logical conclusion is that you should spearhead, together with Ohana Ho'opakele, the building of pu'uhonua on one on every island, and no longer support any more buildings. And you have, as your CEO, a PhD graduate who has specialized in the psychological effects of traumatized Kanaka. So if anybody is positioned to do something with pu'uhonua, I think OHA is right now. Thank you very much for letting me speak.
Can you give us a status, please, a short one?
Aloha mai. First of all, mahalo Dante, Pale Kapua for Sam, and Ron for sharing. We have been in contact over these past year. I also want to mention that the Criminal Justice Task Force report is a very significant document that you really should consider. We never had a really fair hearing last year's legislation. The report was given to the governor, and the reason why is because OHA spent our own funds. We went to every island to gather mana'o from the community on what they think recommendations would be for systemic change. And in that report, we address policy changes at the state level. We look at policy changes within the correctional system in terms of sentencing, like felonies. Those with substance abuse can reduce sentencing, and to address the parole board situation, who really has the authority for sentencing. So I strongly encourage Aunty, when you meet with Bruce Copa next week, you should bring up that report, because it was intended really for the governor to implement policy changes to overhaul the correction system. We sent copies to every legislator and the governor, so that is kind of standing still. As for the recommendation that Ron was talking about, yes, we have moved on. OHA, we still are in the planning stages of meeting with the Lei Trust. I have met with Chair Machado. She has given her approval, but it takes some planning to bring all of them together. We are looking within the next several months. But this probably will be the beginning of many more to come. That does include the HHL, Amendment Schools, Queen Lili'uokalani Trust, Queen Emma Foundation, Luna Little Homes, and Office of Hawaiian Affairs. So it's the beginning efforts. We do have commitments from the board chairs and the executive level. So we are moving on that recommendation, and that the agenda is still going to have to be crafted regarding the priorities for the trust. But I can say with confidence is that we have taken the lead into it, and we will report back. I also want to state that we are continuing the advocacy with you folks, as well as with others like Luau. We have a specific public policy specialist, Kamaili Maldonado, who will be meeting with you folks tomorrow and others about it. After this meeting with Kamaili and you folks tomorrow, we have a follow-up meeting with Ted Sakai and Department of Public Safety. And the reason why for that is, again, to get their commitment on where they are at. And then some other areas that we are looking for. I have directed staff, because I don't know what the current funding status with the Department of Public Safety is. But under the U.S. Department of Justice at the federal level, there is a specific fund for corrections for Native peoples, for Native Americans, Native Alaskans, and Native Hawaiians. The state of Hawaii never did apply for those monies for correction. So we are looking at that for our staff to apply for those monies that go to Hawaiian community, not the Department of Public Safety. So these are efforts that take planning and time, but it does address what Kelly Kapu is talking about in terms of, we got to make a commitment towards it, and we have to show some effort, but it does take some real thought on how we go about it. Because it's not only within the correctional system, Pali and Homestead, it is the community reintegration back in the community. But a good effort would be, why can't we get our pa'ahao to be on a trading line for agricultural business? We get land, we get them, we can teach them not only like what my cousin's program of teaching them to mahiai, but they have their own business, But that's a very out-of-the-box creative thinking that Department of Corrections doesn't understand. But maybe, hopefully, we can work towards it. We continue to support the Pu'uhonua Summit, not the Pu'uhonua Summit, but the bill. That is something that we're working on our side to craft. So as your efforts are with the governor, we are right there with you to move forward forth with this legislation, and especially with Representative Halo and others who are sympathetic towards us, but perhaps it needs a much more louder voice at the legislation and actually directly towards the government. So that's the efforts that we are taking around.
Mahalo ka po. Thank you, Ron, Uncle Sam, Polikapu. Mahalo for being here. We are going to jump into individual presentations. I want to start with Kalani Forrest. He's here to talk about Mauna Kea and Oahu. And if you, I know the night is moving forward, time is passing quickly, so if you could try to stay within a 3-minute time frame, please. We have 20 presenters.
My name is Kalani Flores. I represent the Flores case, Ohana, one of 6 petitioners that were in the case of the TMT permit regarding the Conservation District use permit for the 30-meter telescope that was being proposed on Mauna Kea. And I'm going to make this as quickly as possible. This is actually a 3rd year I'm here before the BOT regarding the same matter, and we have new trustees, new staff, and so there's a lot. I don't want to cover everything I did before, but I did give us a printed testimony, so I don't have to go into detail, but I just wanted to cover the highlights if possible. So just a background, like I said, we're one of 6 petitioners. Went into a contested case hearing. Contested case hearing was regarding this permit that the TMT project, the 30-meter telescope, was being proposed on Mauna Kea. I have a history of what has transpired since. So right now where we're at is it's going into an appeal at the 3rd Circuit Court. But before proceeding further, I really like to thank and mahalo the board for taking up the resolution and passing it regarding this. And the resolution is attached to the handout I gave to you. And basically the resolution was urging the Board of Land and Natural Resources to exercise the highest possible level of stewardship and to afford the strongest consideration to the rights and practices of Native Hawaiians and sacred sites affected by proposed developments, including those on Mauna Kea and the Conservation District use application process. Unfortunately, the BLR didn't heed, or basically ignored the resolution, ignored aspects of protection of Native Hawaiian rights and practices. And in essence, as they proceed forward with this permit, it's really in violation of our constitutional protections for Native Hawaiians. It's also a violation of our public trust doctrine. And this project is just going to cause substantial adverse impacts. In many ways, it can be said. And I mean, there's many now about the 30-meter telescope. And I'm just going to tell it as it is. In order to get a permit to construct something in a conservation district, you have to meet 8 criteria. There's no way that project can meet the 8 criteria. Yet it's been passed through. And we know it's political, there's a lot of politics with it. We know there's a lot of business pushing it. And we know there's a lot of people from outside Hawaii pushing it. There's a lot of money from outside Hawaii pushing this project. I just want to show you one thing how it cannot meet the criteria. I don't want to go through all of it. I just want to show you one thing. The size of this telescope, it's not like any of the telescopes up there. It's over 18 stories tall. We don't even have a building on this island 18 stories tall. We don't even have a building on Kauai 18 stories tall, or on Maui. How can you say that's not an impact? It's over 18 stories. We have a law in this county of Hawaii that only allows certain buildings in the commercial and resort area in Hilo at 12 stories. The rest of the island, you cannot build that tall. How can the BNR allow that to happen on the mountain? There's something wrong. Just to put in perspective how big it is. So I give you a reference. We all know what the state capitol looks like, right? If you put the TMT next to the state capitol, it's almost twice as high as the state capitol. And if you go down Punch Bowl, and you look at it from the Punch Bowl side, the dome is going to be just as wide as the state capitol. That's what's being proposed on the Mauna. How can that not be substantial and significant? It is. That's why they cannot meet the permit, but it's being pushed through. Okay, so that's why as the citizens, these six petitioners have to go to court now. To say, we're forced to go to court, and in order to go to the Third Circuit Court, we have to retain a legal counsel. We can't just do it alone. Prior to this, we're doing all on our own. Out of our own pockets, no legal attorneys, we've been doing it on our own. That's why I'm here, the third year, this is the third time I'm here before the BOT. I'm asking for the same thing again. What I'm just asking is, it fits into the mission statement, it fits into the strategic priorities of OHA. What we're asking is, as a role as an advocate for its Native Hawaiian beneficiaries, it's urged that the OHA BOT take the following action. Allocation of resources for legal expenses in the efforts to protect cultural resources on Mauna Kea and associated Native Hawaiian cultural rights and practices to be impacted by the proposed Conservation Use District Permit, HA 3568, for the 30-meter telescope of Mauna Kea. That's all I'm asking. We've been asking this for the past 2 years. When we was in contested case, now we're in the Third Circuit Court, and we have to get a legal counsel. And it costs money to file things. I don't want to come here and beg. I don't be begging in front of OHA for money. But I did find a potential source of money for this. The potential source of money, and the hand that I gave to you, according to this annual report submitted to the 2013 legislature, annual report on Mauna Kea lands. And you go to the back page of the hand that I gave to you, it's in yellow. The Office of Mauna Kea Management collects monies for tours that go up to the mountain. And by law, they're required to put 20% set aside for OHA. I'm asking you just give a fraction of that money to help protect what's on the mountain. And in quote from here, and this is from the most recent report that was submitted, an amount of $81,494 was set aside for payment to OHA. The cumulative set aside for OHA is $388,416. We're not asking for a fraction of that to go back to the mountain. That's money that's collected from the mountain for people going up. We're just asking for a fraction of that for this league, just to protect what's up there. Now, I'm going to close here quickly. So as it goes on, is 20% of the fees collected are set aside for eventual payment to the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. So I saw the director of the Office of Mauna Kea Management, Ms. Nagata, in the audience, and maybe before she leaves, she can write you a check before she leaves for the $800,000, and then we could perhaps proceed with that. But if you read it about it, it says eventual payment.
Good idea.
So I'm just saying, here are some monies that actually is from the Mauna can you please give us just a fraction of it to protect the mauna? And when do you have to give us borrow the money somewhere and just get it back from them later? I found money for you and for the other programs here. And it's all been sitting in somewhere else. It hasn't been at OHA. And this is a report from the UH to the legislature. Okay, so I'm going to close real quickly. Is that why should we even care what's happening on a mountain? The basic, we talked about how it's important for taking care of our kino, for those of massage. How it's important to take care of every kanaka, whether it's from the schools to the pa'ahau. Everybody's important. Our kanaka important, and so is our land important. Why the mountain is important, not just to us as kanaka, but more so because we're deeply tied in our DNA to this land and to our ancestors who connected to this land, is that the mountain is a people. There's still kupunas, and there's still ancestors, and there's still there's still ancestral beings on the mountain that's still there and hold space on the mountain. And we've been on the mountain a number of times, and they shared many things with us. And they shared the top of the mauna, and it's called Mauna Awakea because it's a mountain of Wakea, the mountain of the Sky Father. The mountain does not belong to the UH, the mountain does not belong to the TNT Corporation, the mountain doesn't even belong to OHA or us. It belongs to Wakea. And they shared with us is that the mauna is a piko, it's a sacred piko. They shared that on this island there's two most sacred piko. Of course the whole island is sacred, but they said if there's two sacred piko on this island. The one piko is at the top of the summit. Because the piko is like the piko on top of your head. Where divine energies and life forces from Keaukaha and the Creator come into this mauna. Just like the divine Keaukaha and our ancestors feed us through this top piko. They said that's why the piko is sacred. They said the other sacred piko is Ahua'uwi. And Ahua'uwi is a piko, they say, to the universe. To the star of ancestral families, there's a piko there. But he said, we as a people, as a Kanaka, we cannot forget what is still important, what is sacred to us. Just like our people on top of our pole, we must not forget the people up there. Even though there's been destruction on top of the mountain, it's still important because this project is going to push things way over beyond the capacity that those on the mountain can handle. And there's another picture I'm going to show you. It's a piko. And this is actually, this occurred in 2011 when a contested case was happening. They're showing you the piko. They showed us the piko. And someone in Waimea Homestead took this. And there's a piko right above the mountain that was forming when these things are happening. That's why. Now we've got to take care of our kino. Now we have to take care of our kanaka. We have to take care of our aina. That's the most fundamental thing as a people we know. And the last thing I want to say is on Puapuakoloa. Like there's many people around the islands and many people here. Puakoloa is another piko. Puakoloa is a piko, it's the center piko. It's this piko, it's an energetic piko of the island. You go take a look at the map. You draw a line, east, west, north, south. It goes right into Puakoloa. They say Puakoloa, what's happening up there, Puakoloa, with the military activities and the bombing, is affecting our island. And if it affects our island, it affects us as Kanaka, and it affects everybody else who lives on this island. The piko of Puakoloa is like the piko on Oahu at Kukani Loko. If you look at Kukani Loko, that is the piko of Oahu. Puakoloa is the piko of Hawaii Island. Why are we allowing it to happen? They can't understand this. All I can say in my closing remarks, and I apologize for taking more time, but I know there's a lot of people waiting. Those ancestors and those kupunas holding that space on Mauna and holding that space Pohakalo can't continue as such. If we don't ALA, this place is going to be, the mountain is going to shake, and Tutupele is going to be coming, rolling and rumbling. And we don't have no princess roof to come here and stop it. So we, as a people, we have to ALA. Because if things shake, things going to shake. But maybe the shake might not be as strong as it has to be. We just have to ALA. Things are changing, they said. Things are happening. Things are going to shift and change. We as a people just have to be awakened. And so we just say, Ika piko, ke aloha, ke akua, mahalo nui no kui ana, alono tātou, alono tātou, mahalo ya tō pauloa, aloha no, mahalo.
I know that you were in Waimea a year before last year, you were in Waimea last year, you're here tonight. So coming up, maybe if you could, at the administrative level, look at Kalani's request. I know at the policy level, when it comes to the TNT, we made a decision several years ago on your Mana'o about wanting Kokoa. Kokoa will be tasked to look at that and be back to you with an answer.
Is that the time schedule is this week we're in the process of filing our opening briefs for the Third Circuit Court. So we look like things are moving urgent. And as one last thing, there's two pictures I gave to you. Like even though the appeal hasn't even got started, they're already excavating up on a mountain. They're excavating with a T9. They're ripping a road, and they're excavating a road so they can do this geotechnical testing. And the appeal that hasn't even gone through yet. That's what I'm talking about. That things are happening. Those two pictures, that's just from last week. Things are happening, and it's irreparable. You cannot. We live on this island. You cut on D9 through and the Hoihe'e, you cannot fix it back after. So things are happening, and things are happening at an urgent pace. And we just look forward in whatever way possible that we can work with this. But like I said, maybe Ms. Nagata can write that check before you guys leave, and then we can see that after. Sorry, Ms. Nagata, but mahalo.
Lance Neely is next, and after...
Excuse me, please. I don't mean to interrupt, but this two gentlemen just got through talking has a part of my heart. But I also have some very interesting information that they didn't mention. That I thought, with your permission, for a couple of minutes, I'd like to expose that one. May I speak?
I'm sorry, did you sign up to speak?
Thank you. My name is Mike John. My name is Mike John, born and raised in Keaukaha. I'm an advocate of the Department of Hawaiian Homelands. Whether you know it or not, part of that mountain has been given to us, to the Hawaiian Homes beneficiaries. Why I'm saying this is because we, the OHA beneficiaries, are the majority of the Hawaiian Homes beneficiaries. And that's why I thought it was so important that I say what I want to say. Back in 1995, when the federal government organized a task force to come over and find out how much land the state was using without paying us, without giving us anything. So that task force came up with $600 million. Not only cash and land. Part of the land they gave us was on the top of the mountain. And I have the document. I am probably the only guy that isn't a state employee or have anything to do with the state that has that document. I've been doing this for almost 30 years, trying to make people understand that the state doesn't have ownership of that entire mountain. We have the most important part. When I say we, I mean the beneficiaries. This land has been given to us, the beneficiaries, for one reason. One reason. The fact that the powers of the governor and the Board of Land and Natural Resources have no powers on Hawaiian homelands, our lands. So I just want you to know that the access road from the bottom to the top, comprised of 65 acres, belong to us. They have built telescopes on that mountain all these years. They've been using the road to get up there to build those, and we have never been compensated. That's why, since we are all OHA beneficiaries, as well as Hawaiian home beneficiaries, I just want you to get in there and do some action. We want that money that's been used, that you've heard everybody talking about today, this evening, excuse me, but we haven't gotten 1 cent. And they're talking about building a $1 billion telescope on that mountain, and we're not even mentioned. I want you to get in there. We want you to get in there. We want the money that's supposed to come to us. It's going to come to Hawaiian Homes, but we're all beneficiaries of both trusts. So are you going to include that in all of the information that's been given this evening on that mountain? Hey, please include us. Don't leave us out. Don't shove us back in the corner. Get out there and do something for us. We own the access road. Everybody that uses that road is supposed to pay us for it. But everybody else is getting that organization that's been put together to take control of that isn't giving us a share of it. We want more than a share. We want what is supposed to come to us for that 65 acres and that access road. Thank you very much.
Bob, you know what? I came to support Maku'u, and if it's okay, I'll let Tony go first, and then I'll be glad to wait till my turn.
Okay. And then after these powers and Lance, you're done. Mawani, former trustee of you're next.
Good evening, trustees, community. 3 weeks ago, along with the Maku'u staff from across the state, and along with all of our supporters that were able to come to Oahu, we did a presentation or a plea for the funding for Maku'u. And actually, just this afternoon, late this afternoon, I found that the wheels have been turning with the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, and tonight I'm here to express our appreciation that we were heard, and to thank the community here as well that supports Maku'u. There are some speakers who still want to speak though, and I think it's important that you get to hear, at least from this community. I know other communities have expressed, when you've gone to Maui, when you've gone to Kauai, you know, our Maku'u has presented themselves to you. And so, even though we're not presenting anything, I would appreciate that you would hear the speakers that have come out tonight to speak on our behalf. But again, mahalo to Kamana'o and the staff for working hard over the last 3 weeks. And we look forward to signing the contract and getting the money so that we can continue on with our programs. Because right now, most of our programs are on hold until we get the contract.
Coming on.
So just for you, Tony, and Hamana, and the community, several weeks ago, Nopuanoia did come to the Office of Hawaiian Affairs regarding funding for these next 2 years. Since then, we have met with Dr. Singh and really want to acknowledge Trustee Peter Apo. On behalf of the trustees, we met 2 weeks ago, and that also included University of Hawaii representatives to work out the funding issue. We will continue to advocate for the requested positions on behalf of Nopuanoia. We will be sending Sterling Wong, our public policy manager, before the Board of Regents in a couple of weeks to support that request. But we have been able to work out the remaining funds to support you for this year. We will have to work on next year's funding request. But I think it's a real positive step we have made, not just with Nopuanoia, but with the University of Hawaii to institutionalize your folks' program across the Pai Island. But there's going to be a lot of heavy lifting and advocacy that we're going to have to do to actually get to the Board of Regents to approve the 18 positions. But we have made agreements on that, as well as the funding that you have. So it's resolved, and it'll be coming up before Trustee Apo's our committee vote for the approval by the board. Yeah.
Wow, we're doing.
You know, I was going to ask, we have 16 more speakers signed up, so.
1 minute.
It can be real quick.
Sorry, we're doing this, I want to speak Japanese, but it showed me a statement. So, thank you very much. I know that there's been a lot of really intense issues being discussed tonight, and thank you again for being able to see us. I know that there's a lot of people who need your money, they need your support, and there's a lot of problems that still need to be fixed. But I do want to address tonight the one thing that is working for me, personally. I've been in Puno'ia for 10 years. From the time I was in 8th grade, all through college. Now I'm nice and graduated. I got a bachelor's degree. I've represented the state of Hawaii, the Hawaiian people, and the United States of America abroad. I've got to talk about my culture, the stories, the history, everything. I got to share that at an international conference in Scandinavia at Kalmar, Sweden. And I know for a fact I would not have been able to do that had I not been just immersed in the culture, in the sciences. What am I going to do after high school? Am I going to graduate from high school? Am I going to go to college? Nopuanoia is such a gem to this community because it has exposed me not only to my Hawaiianness, but also to my inner potential as a student and a leader in my community. I have here with me Aunty Tony, she's a teacher. I have co-workers, I have students. I'm only 24, but I have had teaching experience already. And it's just been such a pleasure to be with Nopuanoia. They've given me scholarships, they've given me so many scholarship opportunities, work opportunities. Just these guys right here behind me, they're the future of Hawaii. When you guys pass the torch on to somebody, don't you want someone who has college experience, college educated, but they also have the Hawaiian background? Those are the people who are going to be leading the Hawaiian nation, the state of Hawaii. They're going to be filling the county, state, and federal positions. They'll be teaching your children. They're going to be administering aid in your hospitals. Nopuanoia not only encourages students to embrace their Hawaiian selves, but also the academic, the business. It is such a well-rounded program. Kids from the get-go, we're going to help you. You may not do well in your regular school, public, private, charter, homeschooling, but we got curriculum for you where you can excel.
You know, I'm going to interrupt you.
Yes.
Because we listened to 4 hours of testimony. You folks weren't on the agenda. I'm not sure if you were there, Aunty Tony, But we sat through 4 hours of testimony at the Board of Trustees level, and I allow 3,000 testimonies come in that got distributed to the trustees. We heard you folks loud and clear, and I'm kind of getting irritated because we are not against the program. We have made a long-term commitment. We understand the impact you folks have, and we have gone. It has been I would like to announce that it's been a communications breakdown, not between OHA, but between the University of Hawaii and Naupuano'eau. That was the final outcome. What we've been able to do under our under the chair of Asset Resource Management is to reconfigure the remaining monies that we have in our fiscal reserve to accommodate Naupuano'eau. So for us to go through this again in a meeting that we want to address all of the people, I feel Naupuano'eau, and I'm going to call David Singh tomorrow, because it's not like we turned our backs against you, and I'm speaking to you as the chair of OHA. We sat through 4 hours of testimony, over 3,000 individual testimonies that have come through, emails, showed up at the table that got distributed. We hear it loud and clear. And it was through the administration, which is Governor Opono, David Singh, and they've been working on this. So, I just going to say that enough already. Not that I'm trying to be disrespectful, but I hear you folks, and we are still committed to serve you folks. That we have bent over backwards to try to accommodate this outcome. And we found monies to provide that, plus we're going to go advocate at the Board of Regents to say, restore those 6 positions. They needed 12, you only gave them 6, so we are very clear about what the needs are.
Okay, I apologize. The word went out when we did not know that it was resolved.
It may not be resolved to your standards, but we are trying to be proactive, and the breakdown was not at OHA. It was at the University of Hawaii's level.
Okay, we appreciate that, and I apologize. So we won't take up any more time this evening.
I would appreciate that, because the trustees have a big heart to serve and continue to support Naupuano'eau. And we have been doing that.
All right, mahalo.
Thank you. Max?
I'm just going to submit the written, I came to read a letter that was submitted by one of our HAHO members, and I'll just submit it.
So that would be 3,001. I'm not kidding, 3,000 individual testimonies.
Thanks, Max. Rouhani? Is Rouhani still here?
Aloha trustees and staff. I have here copies of our latest edition of the Aloha Aina newspaper. We also have a review of Kamakakoi. I want to thank you, first of all, for Kamakakoi. It's wonderful. Those of you that are not aware of it, Kamakakoi, KAMAKAKOI.com is OHA's website that they put together, and it has on it, please check it out, the truth about Pohaka law. So please check it out, and I thank the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. We've received a lot of very positive feedback on that 15-minute video. You can get it to your computer. Please check it out. As I said, it's the truth about Pohaka law, and it is very commendable that you folks have done it. As I said, we have someone who's written a review in our latest edition of our newspaper relating to it, and we've been getting excellent feedback. First I want to thank you, ask you to OHA Ho'opakele, please support OHA Ho'opakele. You know, the kupuna that started with Uncle Sam's the only one left. They've all passed on. We used to meet at the Eleanor Ahuna's house in the early days, and for 15 years this project has been in the incubator. It's about time that we get it in the community. Thank God Representative Hano has left, but she introduced it in the legislature, and I'm very, very happy to hear coming out. You know, I had a prison committee at the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, and unfortunately, the board, it didn't go anywhere, unfortunately. But it's good to see that now the Office of Hawaiian Affairs is taking some action. We know that the system, as it stands now, the system of incarceration does not work. And what Ohana Ho'opakele is doing, thank you, Representative Hano. What Ohana Ho'opakele is doing is a very, very important alternative, and it can work. It's to heal families as well as the pa'ahau that are incarcerated, so it's very, very positive. It's good to see that it's still moving along and not dead. For Hui Malama, $15,000, that's not enough. You know, when I was a trustee and I had the health division, you know, the only money that was being spent, unfortunately, was $100,000 for Dr. Shintaki's project and $200,000 for Aluliki, and that was it for healthcare. You know, you know, it's just such an important area. Hui Malama needs more than $15,000. Our people look at today's newspaper, you know, the dismal health statistics are only compounded. So we need more help, please, in this area. Now, Pana'ewa, I'm glad to hear that things are moving along in that area because it has done a great deal in the community for all of these decades, and is a very, very positive program. Relating to geothermal, you know, people are living on the Big Island by choice, on the neighbor islands. You know, we do not want the neighbor islands, we do not want the Big Island to be industrialized for Oahu's electric lights. Each island should take care of their own energy. You know, it is stupidity to bleed the neighbor islands for Oahu's electric lights while they go and build houses on the best agricultural land on Oahu, which they could be utilizing to feed the people of Oahu. Again, I thank you for Ho'opakele, for the Kamakakoi, and again, we need more help relating to Pohakaloa. Pohakaloa is 5 times the size of Kaho'olawe. Kamakakoi, the film is a very positive addition. However, we need more help relating to Pohakaloa. You know, they don't want the U.S. military in Japan. They don't want them on Guam. They don't want them on Okinawa. And 2 weeks ago, we hear they don't want them over in the Philippines. Well, we here on the Big Island do not want to be the dumping ground for America's military-industrial complex to play war. Our islands are some of the most pristine aina in the world. Yet a quarter of Oahu is used by the military. 1/8 of this island will be for Pohakaloa. And we have sites left over since the Second World War. Over at Waikoloa, they say at $10 million a year, it will take 60 years to remove the munitions that they have had here from the Second World War. We find over in Waimea schoolyard, they find grenades. You know, every so often, within the past few months ago, they had to close Hapuna Beach for 10 days because they had munitions that they had to detonate. So nobody could go in and swim. You know, the military has been bad stewards. Send them to do their training on some desert on the mainland, not our aina. On August 17th, You've got a front page story about, in the Advertiser, Star Bulletin, on the Army to add live fire course over at Pohakaloa that will cost $29 million. In this two-page article, it's at the end that they say, the Army did say that, quote, irreversible damage and loss to archaeological sites, end of quote, is anticipated. The lava tube system on the site is vast, quote unquote, and some tubes would need to be collapsed for heavy equipment use, meaning the potential loss of cultural and environmental history that they might contain. You know, according to the order of Kamehameha, those tunnels under Pohakaloa were an underground highway and is also filled with our historical sites and artifacts left over by our ancestors. Kamoa, OHA staff, had gone through, when he was a cultural monitor, had gone through Pohakaloa, and he could see the artifacts sticking out of the caves. That's the way they treat our history and our culture. Over at Maku'u, the judge stated that there would be no live fire training because they still had not surveyed the historical sites. Well, that's the situation here at Pohakaloa. There should be no live fire training at Pohakaloa for this $29 million firing range until the sites, it should be halted, until the sites there are registered. This is our dowry, our historical dowry that was left over for us from our ancestors. And here they are being bombed to smithereens. In the Kamakakoi website, it calls for people to be able to sign a petition because depleted uranium is a big problem up there. In fact, it is showing up in doctors' offices when people take urine tests. There is depleted uranium in the shishi. And so we have to do more tests to find out what the situation is. Our people's health and safety is being imperiled on this island. So, you know, someone just told me that over in Vieques, where they've been having, over in Puerto Rico, people they were bombing using Vieques as a bombing target, just like Kaho'olawe, only Vieques is like us. People were living on Vieques, are living on Vieques, like we live on this island. There are very, very high incidences. There's a suit that's being done right now of cancer and other maladies. You know, what is to say, look at this, what's coming up in people's urine tests. You know, we are going to be suffering more and more by the military maneuvers up there. And depleted uranium especially. The county council in 2008 said that we should be doing an independent study on that depleted uranium. And we should still, that should be OHA's position, that should be done, period. We've got to take care of our Aina. You know, you over in Oahu, it's like out of sight, out of mind. We're lucky enough to see you once a year. Hello, goodbye, we share our mana'o with you, and then that's the last we hear from you again. Until the next year. You know, we really need that kokua on the neighbor islands. So we ask you, please, help the kokua. Now, I was at the legislature last session, and happened to walk into a hearing where they were discussing Makua, and there was Bill Ila, who said, I am not speaking on behalf of myself as DLNR. I'm speaking, and he was saying that they had a resolution, happened to be in that hearing, a resolution to turn Makua from military control to start the process to civilian control. Well, we should be doing the same thing. In fact, 2029, the lease is up for Pohakaloa. We should say, clean up your opala, just like Kaho'olawe, and sayonara. Go someplace else. I will close it up in just a minute. Okay. I ask you trustees to please kokua us with Pohakaloa. For several years now, we've been trying to get the Native Hawaiian Legal Corporation to do a suit. We need these historical sites to be registered before they spend $20 million on this firing range, and that's only one situation. They got all kinds of plans up there for Puhakaloa, and we need to work with concert with the Office of Hawaiian Affairs so that your staff that's reading all that mana'o that comes in from the military that they specifically set up to confuse the community. We need to have a workshop so we can have a clear understanding of what it is exactly they plan up there. Not piecemeal like the military is doing to play games with us, but we want a broad understanding for all your Pala guys that are reading all those research to share with we of the community. I thank you.
Okay, just as another update. So I have been with Colonel Whitney. He's the Army Commander for Schofield as well as Maku'u, as well as the Marine Commander for Pana'ewa Marine Corps Air Base. Our staff are looking at the Section 106 Department of Defense consultative process. There are some legalities that the military have some exemptions. So we need to change that at the federal level. But I have asked them that they come report to Hawaii community on really what they're going to what they're going to do up at Oahu training area. We're moving into an agreement on how the military engages the Hawaiian community, such as archaeological surveys. We wanted to know more specific plans on where they're going to be constructing the actual infantry training area. So just so you know, we heard the requests. We will be working with not only the two colonels, but their staff to actually get a meeting between them, the military, and the Hawaiian community. Okay, and then we're going to have to move from there. But we also realized that the lease is up in 2029, and so that's on our sites. So we will move towards that, and that's our compliance people. We have Everett working with the military staff for that.
Well, you know, I wanted to add that Kalani Flores was kicked off of the Military Cultural Committee because he was in that film. Now, everything that he said in that film was excellent, and we shouldn't have that kind of retribution, exercising his constitutional rights while they're bombing the hell out of our Puhakaloa. And also, you guys better watch out. Don't let the military use you. When you meet with the military, have some of us guys in the community over there too, that are knowledgeable about what's happening up there and that live on this island, so that you're not alone, and so that we can help you hold them accountable. But don't let the military use you, because that's exactly what they're trying to do. And we snooze, we lose. To have our own people who are supposed to be advocates for us being used by the military against the community is not pono at all. So please, we ask you, get an HLC to start the attorney going. We've been waiting for several years, and Puhakaloa needs that kokua. Our people need that kokua.
So we'll work with Dr. Keaukaha to organize the community meetings with the military.
Good, and don't let them use you. Mahalo nui loa.
Michelle, I have you as an individual presenter. Is this okay? Thank you. And I've got Aunty Shirley, but she spoke already. Edwin Kalei Wakia.
Okay, finally.
Sorry, Edwin.
I gotta get close to them. My voice is not too loud yet. But anyway, coming on because I'm really concerned about where our people are going. Because you gotta understand, the mountain up there, and it's a temple of Kane and his 3 sons that connect us in the 4 pillars of the world. You guys gotta get back with the culture so we can get our team back, because the culture brings out the true value of what us Hawaiians here for in this little body system of humanity. You guys gotta listen, and listen good, because we make a big difference in this world for unifying. If you guys understand what Kani and his 3 sons represent, then you will understand how we can pull this world together. But first of all, you gotta know, we represent the heart. This is why we have a culture called Aloha. And this is why we have, if you understand the Kumalipo bring us way back to the continent of Mu. Okay? When it was a whole land base, when we broke up, the mountain is the island of Hawaii. This is why Kani this is his house. You look straight up, Kani. This Hawaii is his house. Okay? Now you guys gotta listen real good, because we gotta make America see what they play in this unification, and Japan and China, how they play in this unification too. Because now, Kani's sons, you gotta understand, they represent the element of Kani, Akua, okay? Just like how he represents us, okay? He made us in his element of him. Kulolo Kanaloa. Okay? Now you go one without the other, you ain't together. Same like this world. This world is formed in the same way. We get the West, cool right there, what they represent. Physical war. Okay? And they also get the positive side to uphold the law, peace and justice. Lono is Asian continent, where Lono is to represent, you know, the intellectual manner. Pura price intellectual teaching, discipline, obedience, all came from there. But you guys can understand, we come from Kainaloa. Okay? This is Kainaloa, the West. Europe is cool. Mono, East. Hawaii is the living spirit over the land and water. And now this tree is what makes life flow around him. Just like the person himself. What makes you what you are? Mental, physical, and spiritual. One without the other, we together. Well, that's why we play our every role in helping unify this world. But you gotta listen to your guys' heart. Why our God put us here in this world body system of humanity? You got, you know what? Akua, he get his master plan for this whole world. And he made us to be something special for putting together. Okay? And in all, you realize what we play in this unification kind of law. Then the Americans, and the Japanese, and the Asian country can fall in place. And we have one unification. You gotta understand, it takes men, generation after generation, protecting all over the world. That's right. As Hawaiians, we gotta put ourselves back together. Go back home to Makua. Then we can pull our brothers and sisters from the East and West together. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Amber, are you still here, Amber? Georgette? Angel? I hope I'm saying that correctly. And Georgette will be followed by Kanoi Uluwehi Amadea Case.
Aloha mai kako. Aloha trustees, and welcome to the beautiful Big Island. Trustee Lindsay has a quote on your OHA website where he says, "Where much is given, much is expected." My parents told me where much is given, much is required. So I look at all of you and thank you for answering the call, and just like all of us here tonight, a lot is required from us. I'm the member manager of Preventive Law Hawaii Limited Liability Law Corporation. I came to Hawaii in 2000. I was invited to work with Hawaii Bicycling League, and soon discovered the very important legacy from this island about and from Kanawai Mamalahoi, literally guaranteeing safe passage on the roadways. When I came back to Hawaii Island, recently, the past year and a half, I was informed by a member of my Ohana that a family member was in trouble here in the court system. He needed some help. I needed, through the course of this representation, to advise him about what he should do about his plea. Should he go to trial? What's going to happen? What are the odds, right? Right? Know the house you're in. Well, that led to pretty much a 15-month investigation and the culmination of a report, which tonight, I'm glad you guys met. I needed a deadline. Mahalo for the deadline. I've handed and shared a report entitled Criminal Prosecutions and Punishment in Hawaii State Courts, 2 fiscal years, 2001 and 2012. Big bad numbers from Hawaii's Big Bad Island, or America's Deep South Nuiloa. It is amazing. Every way you slice, dice, roll, whatever you want to do to it, cut the criminal prosecution statistics from our state courts, this is the action. This is a felony factory, our island. OHA, at the same time when I was doing my research about what should we do, enter a plea or what, let me tell you this, last year, or averaging the last 2 years, there were 606 felony case terminated each year on this island. 541 of those felonies were committed to a sense of incarceration. A gentleman spoke earlier and said something about someone steal one $5,000 car. Well, you know what? State statute in Hawaii, steal a $300 bag, don't steal a $300. That's not legal advice or local advice either. But should someone find themselves in that situation, $300 theft, 5-year felony in the state of Hawaii, okay? We are the factory. We had 10 criminal trials of those 602 felony terminations. We had 10 trials. 10 trials. What's happening? 1 acquittal. The reason this is titled the way it is, either we're wicked bad here, okay? Wicked, wicked bad. And the rest of the state, you know, is got it right and they're okay. Or something else is going on here, kids, and something else is going on. The numbers are consistent across the board. Let me give you a great example. Violations, which are like harbors, airports, dog leash. We don't have a lot of them in the state. 9,000 cases a year, 97, 83 cases a year. We don't have any of them on this island, really, 9% of those cases. But let me tell you something. If you are charged with a violation offense in our circuit here, all right, 65% chance you are going to be convicted. And we are convicting more than half of all the people who get convicted of violations in the state. Every single way you look at it. Parking is where, traffic and parking is where everything starts. Cars is the cause. It's getting us into trouble. We lead in DUI statistics. It's tragic. And we look at the problem is alcohol. The problem is the over-dependence on motor vehicles. Mahalo to giving the brother the opportunity to leave to catch his bus. I was delighted moving back here, and now I know I can go locally in the communities instead of that once-a-day trip, you know, from Hilo to Kona. Things have gotten better. They need to get even better, okay? Your report, you guys, the recent one, and I'm sorry, and thank you everybody for this time. Your report that came out recently, that was a report from the Justice Task Force Commission. I'd especially like to say this report is immediately responsive to that call, particularly the 48 findings and 38 recommendations to address the overrepresentation of Hawaiians in the criminal justice system. Further study, including further study, would provide a richer understanding of why Native Hawaiians remain disproportionately represented in the criminal justice system. Well, the why is the other conversation, and we have it in our own heads, if not our own knowledge. This tells you how. This is how it is happening. The largest percentage of Native Hawaiians and Hawaiians, according to the U.S. Census, live on this island. Why is there an overrepresentation? We need to look at what's happening in the criminal courts on this island, up and down. Occupy the lower courts. Why are they called the lower courts? It's low down there, and this is what's happening to all of us everywhere. I don't know how many people are in this room now. Is there 100? 4 of us are on probation on this island. Okay? We lead the we don't even commit anybody to probation. Our courts on this island don't commit anybody to probation, right? Somehow, we end up with the state's largest share of people on probation. 4 of every 100 adults on our island is serving a sentence of probation. And we have this new thing now called pretrial services. I call it the new PTSD, pretrial stress disorder, disorder. Now, you're not even convicted, and you're treated like you're serving a sentence of probation. Anybody here who's in that situation, you know what? When you come up to sentencing, make sure you argue that that time served on the pretrial services is your probation time served as well, too. Enough of this. What we need from you guys, besides, again, more thanks for this time. Number 1, you go to the legislature, we need you to advocate for an end to felon for life status in Hawaii at the state legislature. How absurd is that? That you never finish serving a felony sentence. We raise our children, we say you're grounded 30 days. You know that kid's got that calendar. What would they do to us if we extended it another day without cause? Do your time and it's over. People carry it with them every day. Fund delivery of preventive legal education. One of the problems that, I think that we don't have a reconciliation with Western law or Western property values and Hawaiian culture because Americans like to talk about, I got a right to do this. It's like whiny. No, values. Traditional Hawaiian values, those are the laws. We talk about, we don't need the right, when we know what our responsibilities are. Help people understand what their rights and obligations are. We need you too also. You've got the money, you've got the access, we can do it. They want an early terminate, they want to renew that lease on Ho'opakele early. We want fair market value from the United States military for its occupation of all our lands that keeps lands out of housing, it keeps it out of productive use, it keeps it away from us, and they don't pay for it. They don't even leave a damage deposit, okay? They say, oh, economic development? What economic development? They compete with us for housing, for rentals. Guys, fair market value, nothing else, okay? If we can't stop them, fair market value for what they're doing to our land and return it to us and the people of Hawaii. We have to breathe that air every day. And the stain on the souls of those good young men and women who want to serve their country, their island, their community. Let's help end that. We also very much want you to get involved in public transportation on this island, alternatives to the automobile. This is what's getting us in trouble. Our cars are it's either our third bedroom or it's our homes, okay? We are being invaded. King Kamehameha says, safe passage on the roadways. This isn't just from dangerous one another drivers. It's also from the number one reason Americans have an encounter with a police officer. 41% across America, traffic stop. New York City, the stop and frisk, that's a pedestrian traffic stop. You guys, it's happening here. Help us no more. Supply side reduction on the prison population and our island's unique contribution to the incarceration industry of the state of Hawaii. Mahalo nui.
Case, are you still here? Jim Albertini. I'm sorry, Jim. Oh, sorry.
Aloha. I'll try to be very brief here. I want to thank you for several things. I've been the secretary of Ohana Ho'opakele for over 10 years, and I really appreciate your support, and I hope that we can puka through with this pu'onoa as real alternative. I think it will help everybody. Another mahalo is for that great film by Dr. Keaukaha-Panaewa, the Maku'u. I think it's an excellent educational tool, and I think we need to move from education to action. And we hope that OHA could support the Hawaii County Council that in 2008 called for 8 action plans. The number 1 is stopping all live fire at Luau until there's comprehensive testing and monitoring to determine the full extent of the radiation and cleanup of the radiation. In addition, there's 15 million live rounds being fired at Luau annually. They're creating a multi-billion-dollar mess up there. It's going to be far more expensive to clean up than Kaho'olawe. And we all know what the cost of that is and the mess that still exists there. And I support 20 floors on the more building on Mauna Kea. And finally, I want to make a gift. Dr. Crab here, and perhaps it can be shared with the other members